What's up? What's up, everyone? Today we're going to be doing things a little different. Instead of debating our haters, I'm going to be physically fighting them. So if you're not prepared to fight me in a cage, go ahead and just run away with your tail between your legs like the cowards you are. Ruth Bader Meinhof, that means you. We're gonna do a debate, and then we're gonna get in the cage and scrap it out. So I don't make the rules, but this is what we're doing. Anytime, any place, anywhere. Could you imagine Ruth Bader in a fight? Not the actual Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Ruth Bader Meinhof. That person can't even show up to a debate space to back up their arguments. I don't know. I can't even imagine how sad the lives of some of these ACP haters are. It's got to be just totally pathetic. Like, I almost don't want to know. I almost don't want to know what they live like, because it would probably gross me out. All right. I think my Wi-Fi is down, everybody. I'm currently doing this on data, so I don't actually know if Haz is streaming right now. Obviously, he told me to set up the debate space for tonight. But I can't tell if he's streaming because I don't have Wi-Fi, and the stupid capitalist Wi-Fi company, Mediacom, which is garbage and has 1 star on Yelp in my area, they said that they can't send anyone to fix my Wi-Fi till the 19th, which is like, seems insane to me, and I told them as much, and then I expect to be refunded. I'm a nice guy, like, I have problems sometimes being too nice, being overly nice. And this is something that I got from my parents. They allow companies like Mediacom to bully them because they're too kind. But when it comes to faceless corporations, I've learned no, you have to bully them. You have to be mean. Um, you have to treat Mediacom like shit if you want to get your money back and you want them to actually come fix your Wi-Fi. So little life advice there for those of you who are too nice like me. But that's neither here nor there. Hopefully Haas will be on. I'm not sure if he's streaming or not, but we'll get started here and just start having some people on. I'm gonna have Nima come on first because I know he's cool, and not a hater, but we'll just have a little conversation here before old Haas gets in here. I don't see any of the haters yet anyways, so unless Jules is a hater. Jules, are you a hater? Hopefully. What's up, Nima? How's it going?
I'm good, Eddie. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me. I just wanted to. I've been wondering for quite some time because I think you guys, when you guys do your thing, it's really interesting. Whether it's you're doing your videos or Haas is doing his videos or talking theory. Why do you care what these idiots say? I don't understand. Like,
Yeah,
why
I
bother?
don't. I don't. I was thinking about telling that to some of the ACP guys recently. Like, maybe you should just ignore these idiots. But as far as the debate space, it is important, I think, because like here's the deal. Like, there have been a couple tweets from one of our main haters whose name I don't even want to mention because I don't want to give him any clout. And on a personal level, I don't care about him. I almost feel bad for him. But some of his tweets have gone viral. Some of these anti-ACP tweets, and I don't know, if they're Fed boosted. A lot of them, if you look at the likes or if you look at who's responding and boosting these tweets, you can't look at the likes anymore. But if you look at who's boosting them, it's NAFO, and a lot of these like right wing troll elements. But what ends up happening then is people who aren't trolls, people who would make good ACP members, people who are competent see that and they fall for it. They get tricked by these smears and they don't realize these smears are coming from some person who's in their 30s and living in their parents' basement with a bunch of cats. Because it's Twitter, and everyone's anonymous. And like the reason um, that I host a lot of these spaces, and then we bring Haz in, is because, well, for in general, Midwestern Marx has always had um, a little softer approach than infrared, so we can play the role of kind of winning people who are skeptical of infrared over to our position and whatnot. But a lot of people end up believing the smears. Like, even as much as I hate to say it, and as ashamed as it makes me to say it, even I fell for it a little bit, or not so much me, but other members of Midwestern Marx they wouldn't watch the infrared streams, they wouldn't watch Haz's streams, they would just watch these clips that people were taking out of context and then posting on Twitter. And that was like the only way that we got to engage with infrared and Haz was through these clips that haters were posting, because they were getting banned from every other outlet. So the purpose of these spaces is to not to win over the trolls, but to show how incompetent these trolls actually are, show how they have no ability to defend their arguments, and to win over the people who are competent and worthwhile, who have been tricked by smears from people who aren't. So that was long-winded, but hopefully that makes sense.
No, no, I understand why you have the spaces and debate people who disagree with you or me. Or I think that's a really good strategy because, like, if you have nothing to lose, then why don't you come and say it to my face? I get that. So I think that's a good idea. I just meant more like the shit they say is childish and infantile. You guys have built up an organization from nothing where you help people in the community, you hand out clothes, food, you help us. I mean, you do things in your own communities all over the country from what I've seen on social media. Who cares what they say on Twitter? Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, all that matters is the responsibility you take in your community and, you speak with your actions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I think, recently we've had some like big name left wing creators apply to the ACP or announce their support or reach out to me about working together. And I think, that's a product of, maybe it's a product of these spaces, but I don't think it's a product of us, responding to these weirdos on Twitter. And I've tried to rein it in. Sometimes it just makes me mad, and I break and I respond with something. But I think it's through our actions, through what we've done in the community. People are starting to realize who's serious and who's not, and they're realizing that they've been tricked by these smears. So it's a process. Like, it's hard. Like, I don't care and I don't want to pay attention to them, but I almost have to sometimes, because people buy into these smears. But with time, I think more and more people are seeing that we're serious about organizing communities and workplaces, um and Twitter's so easy to manipulate too, because one person could make 20 fake accounts, and we know that a lot of our haters have done that, so they can artificially, you know influence the discourse. But yeah, so I guess I try to only care as much as I try to only care to the extent that it affects real life organizing, I guess.
That makes sense. I mean, that's why I suggested to you the other day when you I can't remember what their name was, this ridiculous Wikipedia, proletariat Wikipedia thing. They were, I mean, that's libel. Like what they do there is libelous. That's different. And as I tweeted at you, I think you should sue them, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, we are in the process of. The problem with those guys is they're anonymous, because they want to hide behind their screen name while they push their smears about actual organizations. But John's in here right now. He's part of the ACP legal team. Um, we're trying to get a hold of them so we can at least send a cease and desist, and if they continue, sue them, because yeah, it is libelous, and that's a great example of when these smears actually do matter. Because if you Google Midwestern Marx or ACP or whatever, one of the first things that comes up is these pro wiki guys, and it you'd think that uh an organization called Pro Wiki, that's trying to not be a cesspool of propaganda like the actual Wikipedia, you'd think that they would have a positive view of us. But you go on their page and it's just complete blatant smears. So who knows how many people were interested in the ACP and Googled it and then saw ProWiki's libelous slander and believed it. So yeah, it's just hard. It's finding how to combat that, but yeah, we're not afraid to mobilize the legal team. And honestly, the legal team's taken nothing but dubs so far. We've gotten a lot of people to stop with the smears, to stop with the slander, and then I had not 100, I had $3,000 taken from me from my previous employers unjustly, and the legal team helped me contact them and write a letter threatening legal action, and they refunded me in full and canceled the tuition. So this is ACP dubs, but yeah, it's definitely it's a weird thing to try and navigate. I do think I need to just stop responding to these people on Twitter, and I've tried, and just like today when I saw that Ruth Bader Meinhof guy spreading more nonsense, I'm like, come in the debates, come in the debate space. I thought about responding, but instead I'm like, just come defend your ideas, because it makes it so obvious when we get them in here and we get them in an actual conversation that they're not serious, they're not well read, they're spreading nonsense. For the most part, there have been a few people with legitimate criticisms and whatnot, but yeah. Let's
No, that's
go.
fair. That's fair.
I appreciate it though. For those who don't know, Nima's a football journalist, football, the real football, who's been a fan and supporter of Midwestern Marks forever. So we really appreciate that. It's cool to see. I mean, maybe this is. I know it's been more of a thing in Latin America and Central America to have socialist or left wing people involved with sports. Like the great Diego Maradona, but we haven't had a whole lot of that in the U.S. Like not since Muhammad Ali. It's like sports have been kind of co-opted by the right, or the NFL has now been co-opted by wokeism. They have like end racism stickers everywhere. Like that'll do it. That'll end racism. But yeah, it's cool to see that there's way more people who are involved in sports who are joining the left. But it looks like, of course, it looks like a lot of our haters are not joining the space right now. Who could have guessed? Who would have thought that the ACP haters are afraid to defend their ideas? But there's one person requesting, Jules. I don't know, anarchist nihilist. Okay, this should be a hater. Actually, this should be good. We'll add Jules to the space. And
Hello?
hello,
Hello?
what's up?
Hi. Um, I guess I'm here to debate you, although I will say I'm not a very confrontational person, so maybe it'll be more like a discussion. I will say,
I'm
even
not
though
either.
what?
I'm not either, so that's
Okay.
all right.
Well, I mean that's good. Although I do think I we have large disagreements, which I'll get to. But before that, I would like to say I remember during COVID, I was locked in, and my friends finally got me to download TikTok. And I enjoyed some of your videos back, like, is it now like 2 years ago? That time flies. Whatever. Um, yeah. So I kind of didn't want to talk about broader political philosophy stuff, but more about kind of the ACP's tactics and why you guys kind of rub me the wrong way. Um, sometimes you lesser than other people, which is why I decided to pop in. Um, uh, I
Yeah. Just give me some examples,
uh,
and I'll try and respond.
well, so I'll shift into one thing, and the thing that I'm going to talk about is I feel like you punch left kind of harder than you punch right, and I would just like to say I do actually kind of agree with your general sentiment about kind of politics of purity on the left. I think a lot of people like to feel morally superior, and even if you are, I mean, there are tons of things to feel morally superior about if you support Palestine, and for better or for worse, a lot of people in the U.S. are propagandized, whatever. But I feel like people kind of, they take this mentality back from when they were liberals, where it's all about kind of wagging your finger at people, and I find that kind of gross. And most Americans aren't socialists, and if we want socialism to win, we have to win them to our side. Um, and I have family in Kansas who I'm going to be visiting and spending Christmas with, and the way some people on the left feel about people in certain parts of the country, I think is wrong, and treating them as unreachable, I think is a bad way to be. And I would just like to say up front, I'm gay, and but despite that, I organize with one of the things that I kind of find in some of your guys' rhetoric that just doesn't match my experiences when talking about purity in actual organizing spaces. I think there actually is a great job of like reaching out across different social groups and people who have maybe different social values and whatnot. um I mean, I no longer live in the US. I live in Glasgow, but so when I talk about organizing, I'm going to be talking about organizing in Glasgow. But you know I organize with people who I have sometimes very serious political disagreements with. But oftentimes, like, there's a common cause we care about, like Palestine, and we're able to be comradely or even friendly and respectful. Um, I remember you guys posted some stuff from, you were reposting stuff from the CPB here in the UK. And I have friends in the CPB, and they have oftentimes similar kind of disagreements about tactics and optics and this, that, and the other thing. Um, but they're never like hurling slurs at me or whatever. It's just like a very different vibe, and I'm kind of, especially here in the UK, the politics of trans politics are very different here, and you kind of just have to come to terms with the fact that you're going to disagree with some people. But I don't know.
I'd say that's pretty similar to the United States. I know it's different. I know they call
Well, I mean,
the
I organized
UK
in the
like
States
Turf
too.
Island or whatever. I don't think it's as popular. I don't think the gender ideology and uh, transgenderism is as popular in the UK. I think that I think here you're more likely to get censored and banned if you criticize gender ideology than you are in the UK. Maybe I'm wrong
No,
about
no,
that, but I think it's
yeah, no,
pretty similar in terms of being, an incredibly divisive issue.
yeah, no. I just mean in the UK, the mainstream is anti-trans, so
Right.
it's just a different dynamic. Um, yeah. Um, but
Well, let me answer the thing about punching left, because it's not that we feel that we're morally superior to any group. I mean, everybody, the Marxist position on morality is that it doesn't really matter. Politics
I'm
is
with you. I'm with
objective,
you on
and
that. Yeah, yeah.
right, it's object, and everybody has to have their own personal morality and instead of values that they figure out. It's not, but where we're critiquing these organizations is strategically in the same way that Lenin did in all of his work. I mean, I remember thinking this when I first started reading Lenin, like, wow, he sure attacks, quote unquote, other leftists a lot. But the problem that he was facing is the same problem that we're facing today, where the biggest obstacle to getting people organized and to advancing class struggle, I do not think it's right wing organizations so much as it's left wing organizations who are taking the name of socialism and either pushing policies that are reactionary or pushing a middle class professional managerial class politics that are incredibly alienating to the working class. And if we go back to in history, social democrats, groups like the DSA, have always been the moderate wing of fascism. That's why communists have always called the social democrats social fascists. And this, when in times of crisis, they always, always, always tend to side with the capitalist ruling class against the communists. And there's no better example of this than the German Social Democratic Party selling out the communists Karl Liebknecht and Rosa Luxemburg to the fascists, giving their location away so that they could be killed, which obviously, created the conditions for eventually Hitler to come to power rather than, a strong
Sure,
communist
sure.
party. And
I
and one more thing, because nobody right now is siding with fascists to try and kill us, but they are siding with fascists to smear us, to attack us. Like I said earlier, a lot of the left attacks from people who consider themselves leftists, who call themselves communists, who are in PSL, DSA, whatever, their attacks and smears and lies against us are being boosted by NAFO, or they're
yeah.
being boosted by Groypers. They're
I,
being one more thing.
yeah.
Let me finish my thought here. And then not only that, but they are actively working behind the scenes to stop us. The reason that I haven't been in Venezuela yet, which is what I've spent more time researching than anything else, the Venezuelan Socialist Project and their battle against U.S. imperialism. So I was, very excited to go meet with Chavistas and study the country for myself. And we had that set up. There was a plan for me to go to Venezuela. It was all going to be paid for. And PSL worked behind the scenes. They called up the people they knew in Venezuela and they sabotaged it. They told them that we're fascists or right wingers or whatever, and they didn't let it happen. And the Venezuelans have now figured out that that's not the truth, and I will be going to Venezuela eventually. But these organizations who call themselves left wing are actively working to sabotage what we're doing. They're sabotaging our working in communities and working in workplaces. And this is the function that they play. This is why the CIA has spent way more time infiltrating and propping up certain kinds of left-wing ideologies, more so than right-wing ideologies, with things like COINTELPRO and Operation Chaos. Because what groups like PSL and CPUSA do, and DSA, they act as radical recuperators. So as an example, you have maybe a young 18-year-old person who sees one of my TikToks, and this is, hypothetically before ACP, before the
Yeah.
party that we have existed. They see one of my TikToks and they go, okay, I like this. I agree with this. The system is messed up. I want to do something about it. I'm going to join a left-wing organization. And then they join PSL or they join CPUSA, who has them, participate in bourgeois elections or do all these the same protests with the same people over and over again, or push all of these culture war issues, and then nothing happens, nothing actually changes, and people end up getting burnt out, and they end up leaving these organizations. So these left-wing
Okay.
organizations that we're attacking, which we would call radical recuperators, because they take people's radical energy and transfer it into something that upholds the status quo rather than challenging it, they're the main obstacle to actually forming a movement that could change this country, I think. We know that we don't agree with the right, and we can explain that. The Groypers, their ideology is idiotic. It's
Sure,
easy
sure.
to explain, but these groups like PSL are more nefarious because they put the hammer and sickle in their bio
I
while, essentially pushing liberalism.
I so just for the record, I'm not. I mean, I'm. If you know anything about me, I'm like totally an ultra. So I mean, if anything, you would yell at me for I don't know, being ineffectual or this, that, and the other thing. So some of your critiques I think are valid, but I feel like you are maybe downplaying the extent to which a lot of your arguments can just be levied at you. I mean, in terms of like being boosted by right wingers, I've seen like a lot of your stuff be kind of boosted by right wingers. You guys
How
oftentimes.
so, which posts and which right
So
wingers are boosting us? Because I have not
I
seen
I
that.
I mean I'm not terminally obsessed with you guys, so I don't keep a tally. But I was talking to like Nikki recently, and like half the people in that space were all like
Yeah,
conservatives.
Nikki's not even in the party,
Okay,
and
okay,
Nikki is one of the Nikki's like a I don't, I say this with all due respect. I like Nikki. We're friends, but she's sort of a socialite, right? She's
yeah.
in a lot of these spaces, and she's very, very willing to go into right wing spaces and push Marxism, but she's not
Well,
even
yeah.
in the party. And these I haven't, I none of my posts get boosted by
Yeah,
right
no,
wingers. It's people from my TikTok and it's infrared people and
as I said,
Midwestern
I
Mexicans.
actually don't think for the most part you, and for the most part has, do not get boosted by right wingers. I will say that the two people kind of in your sphere who I feel like do get boosted by right wingers are Hinkle and Nikki, and usually it's over culture war stuff, which was the other thing I was going to say.
Well,
You criticize the left for alienating people with culture war stuff, but it seems like you guys, I mean, part of the reason why I feel like a lot of people, you were talking before about how people have this like incorrect view of you being taken out of context, and some amount of that I'm sure is misrepresentation. But I mean, I've had people with hashtag MAGA communism. I mean, the funny thing is oftentimes it's about like women's rights issues. They'll come in and accuse me because they think I'm a woman, and also because I'm gay, and I'll talk about like sleeping with men. They'll talk about me only supporting women's rights because like I'm like a histrionic whore who like is, you know, lashing out at society for my poor life decisions, and I find that incredibly
well,
off-putting.
I don't know what that's all about. That has nothing to do with our party platform. But when it comes to Jackson, when you say that he's boosted by right wingers, there's a difference between being boosted by NAFO trolls, which is a project created by federal agents in order to
Yeah,
push the war in Ukraine, versus Jackson, who has a lot of working class, you know, MAGA people, a lot of people who consider themselves on the right, but who agree with him on the anti-war stuff and on the idea
sure.
that the working class should seize political power. So with Jackson, it's much different than somebody who's posting a smear that then gets boosted by NAFO trolls and
I
federal
I
agents.
I
What Jackson's
I
doing
mean
is taking
the thing
people who are
the thing
working class and who are nominally on the right and pushing them towards anti-imperialist pro-working class positions in a very pragmatic way that I know not a lot of people agree with, but I mean that's you know what I mean, unfortunately, I guess it's not even unfortunate, it just is what it is. A lot of Americans hold socially conservative positions and they view the woke stuff as something that's being enforced on us from the top down, and in many ways they're correct. We know that, you know, there are Boeing and Raytheon are showing up to Pride and walking around with rainbow flags and saying you can't criticize us for being part of the military industrial complex because we're progressive now, we're woke now.
okay.
And
Uh, uh,
Jackson and a lot of Americans view that ideology as being part of the ruling class ideology. And like I said,
I,
it's true in many ways. And
I didn't
Jackson
get to
is
finish
trying
what I
to
was saying.
direct I'm going to finish what I'm saying. And
Okay,
Jackson is
but
trying to
you
direct
interrupted me and then you
their
didn't let me
energy
finish. I feel
towards
like you've talked way more than
which
me, but
is
anyway.
much but you're in my space, so I'm going
Okay,
to finish what
fine,
I'm saying.
fine. I'll be
So
polite. Sorry.
Jackson, these people are using right wingers to attack anti imperialists, right? Jackson is taking the right wing, or, you know, quote unquote right wing audience that he has, the working class audience that he has, and pushing them towards anti imperialism. So it's different than being boosted by, you know, and we're using the term the right here very loosely, right? I don't think Jackson has a single NAFO troll, a single, you know, NAFO federal agent who's boosting his content, or Zionist agent boosting his content. Quite the opposite. Whereas these people who are posting the libelous smears about us, that's who they're having their content boosted by. It's not working class MAGA folks who, you know, voted for Trump because he promised to end the wars and bring their jobs back. Those are the kind of people who like Jackson. It's the federal agent right, the neoconservative right, that's boosting the attacks against ACP.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm done.
The other thing that, and you've been doing this a lot here, which I kind of don't, kind of rubs me the wrong way, is this kind of tarring everybody on the left as like pushing kind of quote unquote woke ideology. While I think it's true that people on the left are, for the most part, overwhelmingly, at least in the US, right, pro like a lot of these things, like, you know, gay liberation, etc., etc. Um, the idea that they are like, the idea of like lumping them in the same category as kind of like performative liberals feels really dishonest, especially with my own like firsthand experience doing organizing. I mean, maybe it's different in different places, but for the most part, I feel like, I mean, in my experience, even though I haven't been a member, in groups like DSA, PSL, etc., they have quite a variety of people with different views. And I think for the most part, well, here's the other thing. You guys are also take views that alienate people. I mean, if we're just talking about what's popular in the US, the majority of the people in the US, like, broadly are in support of things like gay marriage and whatnot.
Yeah, we're not against gay marriage. When have we ever said that we're against gay marriage? Here's what the problem is with the wokeism, right?
Sure.
We're not a problem with anybody. I support gay marriage, of course. Like, who cares? I think, most of America at this point, like you said, doesn't care. The problem is when you bring what you do in your bedroom into politics. And we have said if the PSL, of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, wants to work together with us on anti-imperialism, we will, because we don't care about the culture war stuff. But the problem is that they won't work with us on anti-imperialism because we're not talking about culture war stuff all the time, and because we're
I
not
think that
talking about what people do in their bedroom all
I,
the time. So what
I,
wokeism is, well, the reason I use that word wokeism is when culture war issues and gender issues and issues of sexuality trump the class struggle and trump anti-imperialism, and that's where these groups like PSL are at. And it's very off-putting to most working class people, which is why these groups are made up of students and upper middle class people, and it prevents them from uniting with other people like the ACP who are anti-war. And we're not even against any of these things that they support, in terms of the culture war. We're just
I,
trying to focus on class struggle, but that's not enough for them. They need us to talk about sexuality and gender all the time, and we're just not going to do it.
I would just like to say this feels. I feel like, especially, and again, less so with you, but I feel like, especially with people like Hinkle, this feels disingenuous when I see them on my timeline engaging in culture war stuff all the time, trying to, basically, like, saying weird things about, like, the Nazis being gay or whatever, or, like,
Well, that's just the Nazi cross-dressing thing and being hyper obsessed with the sexuality of gender and politics. That's just a historical
yeah,
reality,
no,
and it's
but
it's very easy to and you can tie that to the imperialists of today who are obsessed with the same kind of stuff.
yes, but they were. I mean, we can talk about all the we can psychoanalyze Nazis. That can be a whole conversation. But, like, outwardly, they were violently homophobic, and maybe that's because they were all closetedly gay and, ashamed of themselves, and therefore, But, like, it
And we published articles about that too.
yeah,
And we published articles about how the CIA used communists being gay as a reason
yeah,
to
yeah,
attack
yeah.
them.
No,
And we've
no,
talked about how that's wrong.
yeah. Anyway, I feel like people like Hinkle seem to post a lot more than I do about, LGBT, etc. There's a lot of I mean, even if you go into these places that you call being, like, woke or whatever, if you go into DSA places, you'll hear people saying what sounds like exactly the same thing that you're saying about, identity politics. Like,
Then they
the
need to
views
leave
you're
DSA and join the ACP because their leadership is leading their parties in the wrong direction.
but here's the thing. I feel like a lot of the portrayal of these groups, that a lot of what you're saying just has not lined up with my experience meeting and talking to these people. And it feels like you're angry that the ACP is being kind of quote unquote smeared or whatever. But it seems like you're doing the same thing where you want to paint them as kind of uncompromising and whatnot. And they feel
Look,
like
we're
there's ill
willing to
will.
work with them on anti-imperialism. They're not willing to work with us. I mean, it's as simple as that. We're willing to put these issues of sexuality and gender and culture war stuff aside to focus on the most pressing issues of the day. They think those issues are a red line. They think the culture war issues are a red line. Some of them will even openly say that their red line is imperialism, but then they'll say we don't want to work with the ACP because they're fascist, because they don't make all these culture war issues, or put all these culture war issues at the forefront.
I,
It's
I mean,
it's
I do
something
think
that's and
I
I
do.
mean, how can you deny that these? How can you really deny that these organizations are pushing culture war issues? If you scroll through any of the DSA or PSL social media feed, you'll see rallies for, not class-based issues. You'll see,
Oh,
them standing side by side with Democrats pushing culture war stuff.
okay. I mean, I just find this kind of baffling, considering, like, if you scroll through ACP accounts, they post nonstop about culture war stuff. Like,
Really? Scroll through my account right
no.
now and show me
As
the
I've said
first thing
before,
that
you're
I
the
said about the
exception. But
culture
I'm
war.
talking about particularly Hinkle here. I
Well,
mean,
I'm talking about
and
parties. I'm not talking about individuals that you saw on Twitter. I am talking about political parties, and you won't find anything on the ACP main account, or in our party program or in our party constitution that says, we're against gay marriage or we're against people doing whatever they want in their bedrooms. It doesn't exist. We're focused on the core working class, issues that affect working class people, which are, imperialism and
sure,
nationalization of the banks and things like that. And it seems like people always have to come in and make it about the culture war, though. I mean,
Here's I'll just
it's what the
kind of tell
conversation
you.
we're having right now. It's like we never have any other debate besides this. It's like, and there's never any actual evidence of what our party is doing to somehow, hurt gay people or hurt trans
Oh,
people or whatever. It's always just,
I'm.
I saw some guys on Twitter, they said something I didn't like, and it's like, well, what the hell does this have to do with politics in our party?
Can I just tell you how it feels from my perspective as someone before kind of the ACP even existed? I was kind of familiar with Jackson Hinkle as someone who kind of uh, things kind of changed with the beginning of Palestine, but as someone who kind of mixed um, some political discussion and Russia stuff with, to some extent, like hanging out with manosphere influencers and kind of spending quite a bit of time involved in that scene.
Yeah,
And
I went on Jake Shields' podcast recently. We have to
yeah,
go
yeah,
into these places and push our argument. If they're going to offer us a platform, who cares if we sit? And this is the core of the purity fetish. There are so many leftists who think you're not even allowed to talk to these people. You're not even allowed to go on Jake Shields' show. And what this does is it causes people like me or Haz or Jackson to cave to the pressure. And then
sure.
once you cave to the pressure, you become Hassan Piker, where you're just speaking to the same echo chamber over and over
No,
and over again. And what does that do to bring about change?
I think there
Nothing.
should be effort to approach people who are on the right. I believe in that.
That's
But
what Jackson does better than anyone.
but 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 but
What is what
here,
I mean, what did
can
he
I
do
just
on
finish what
Alex
I'm
Jones'
saying?
show? He pushed
The,
Marxism. He pushed anti-imperialism.
I feel like I've been trying to be nice. I would just like to finish what I'm saying, which is that I feel like there's a situation where if I was in an organization with someone like Jake Shields, even if I knew, unlike people who are merely, socially conservative or whatever, I would feel uncomfortable being in an organization with a major influencer whose career is kind of built around um
Well, Jake's not in the ACP.
yeah, no,
I'm saying you
I'm
go on
not
his
saying that he is,
platform and you
but
reach the people who watch his show or who were a fan of him growing up like me because he
sure.
was a UFC title contender. I'm not saying we're going to get
I
Jake
wasn't
Shields
accusing that.
himself into
I
the
would like to
executive
finish my
board.
thought. What I was saying was the reason why oftentimes there is certain, one of the reasons why people try and, in your view, the culture war kind of excludes people, but in many cases saying that, hey, organizing spaces, you're not going to hear people, call you slurs and whatnot, is kind of a prerequisite for getting people in the door and organizing, right?
I
Like,
promise you, there are no slurs that go down at any of our organizing spaces. There's no hate crimes. There's no attacks. There are gay and trans people who are in the party. We accept them. We love them.
well, I'm happy to
And they
hear
just
that.
understand that that's not, their sexuality and their individuality isn't going to be the main thrust of our
Well,
party program.
just for the record, I think you would get a lot more signups if you got, for example, someone like Jake Shield to say that openly. If he said exactly what you said on Twitter, I think tons of people would change their mind. And
Why does Jake Shields speak for the ACP?
no,
He's not in the
I'm not talking
party.
about Jake. Sorry, I said Jake Shields. I meant Jackson Hinkle. Sorry. It's 3 o'clock in the morning here. I'm a little bit tired. My brain's a bit scattered. I decided to stay up because I don't know. It seemed like a fun thing to do. And I have work in the morning, so and me. So I'll only stay for a little bit longer as well. But
So what do you want Jackson to post on Twitter?
no, just to post that, say the people saying that we're violent bigots or whatever should know that within the ACP there are plenty of gay and trans people, and they're treated with respect. I think if he tweeted that, 80% of people would shut the fuck up.
I
That's
mean,
my
this has
opinion.
been tweeted. I don't know, I don't know why Jackson himself has to
Okay,
make this post.
well, then you want to
One of our
I have a better thing. Just you
one of
tweet
our
it.
chapter executives made a post, saying I am a homosexual who's in the ACP, and it got like 600 likes.
Okay, well,
It blew up. I don't know. Jackson's doing a good enough job of reaching people on his own. I'm not going to
okay.
try to, control his Twitter account.
Okay, I'm just saying, I feel like what a lot of people see is a lot of culture war stuff from Jackson, and that's kind of how I know about him from like saying. I mean, I don't want. We can maybe shift to more substantive issues about like, I don't know, abortion and whatnot. But I don't. I'm kind of tired, and I don't. Again, I don't like to
Let's
debate.
not
So
debate abortion right now,
yeah,
please.
no.
Abortion debates are the most boring shit
I
ever.
actually agree, and I honestly don't think I don't really want to wade into that. The one point I will talk about, because it kind of is important to me, and I was talking to Nikki, and she was saying some stuff that I found objectionable on this, but as you said, she's not. I guess she's not in the party or whatever, which was different from what she was saying, but that's fine. Um, which is the I'm I feel kind of queasy about your guys' attitude to immigration, especially as someone who is the child of immigrants and who currently has family in immigration court.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
uh,
This is more interesting to me because this is actually something that's in our party program, which,
yeah, yeah,
it seems like every critique is like someone said something on Twitter I don't like. And that's why I'm getting a little short with you because I'm just so tired of having this
sure.
argument over and over.
I,
But
I mean, I
I
mean
do
to be
want to hear your
honest,
immigration critique.
to be honest, I don't even see much of you guys on Twitter. In fact, I mean, until recently, I couldn't see a bunch of you guys because I think Haz blocked me because I said some bad things about Heidegger at one point, which is a hilarious thing. I feel like everybody has beef with him for very different reasons than what I was, because I don't like Heidegger, but that's a separate conversation. That's
Though,
also maybe a little bit anyway. But the the thing is, one, I think there's a long history of socialists um, taking in immigrants and it being like a key way that they kind of differentiate themselves from like the broader, more reformist labor movement. I mean, one of like
can you give
the
me an
first things.
example?
What?
Can you give me an
Yeah,
example of
yeah,
what you mean and
yeah.
where it was
So,
done?
one of the things that like I really loved learning when I was like getting into history was how the IWW kind of transformed labor organizing, because for the most part groups like the AFL would not take in immigrants. It was a lot of Catholics, Chinese, etc. And the IWW did, and as a well, in addition to the kind of industrial model of union organizing as opposed to craft unions, um, and this was like a huge kind of boon to their success. They were able to leverage like the inherent connectedness of immigrant communities and whatnot, and it kind of had a dual purpose of both kind of making workers realize that the working there's the old slogan of like the working class has no nation, that they had more in common with each other than they did with the bosses, even though they were maybe from different places. So like it helped them overcome prejudice while at the same time you know being an extremely successful organizing tactic. um and
So
I,
you're just saying we should allow immigrants into our party? Because we
no, no,
already
no, no,
do.
no. I'm saying that having like a pro-immigration policy is like a it's good for like building an organization, and I also think it's just the right thing to do. I think immigrating to the U.S. is incredibly difficult.
What do you mean by a pro immigration policy?
I think you guys should be explicit about advocating making legal immigration easier as kind of an immediate demand, which seems kind of at odds with some of the vibes I get from some of the
I mean,
people.
have you read our I mean, this has been well expounded by Haz. It's in our program, but also Haz had this back and forth with this academic named Colin Bodale, where he expounded upon what the Marxist position on immigration has always been and what socialist governments have done in the past, because there's nobody who benefits more from unmitigated immigration and mass immigration than the capitalist class, because it gives them this giant pool of cheap labor that they can draw from. And most of the people who are fleeing here to the United States are coming from Ukraine, Venezuela, Syria, all countries who are under the boot
Sure,
of US imperialism. And most of these people don't want to uproot their families and leave their homes, but they feel like they have to for a better life, you know, because they're under the boot of imperialism.
so
And not only that, the you know the we do want to make the border process more humane, right? We don't want to like be
yeah,
locking people in cages or whatever, but you do need a regulated border. Every socialist, I mean, how are you supposed to have a socialist economy where you plan the economy in order to take care of everyone if you don't even know who's in your country, if people could just be rolling across the border
sure,
in
sure.
mass?
May,
So
may,
it needs to be controlled and it needs to be humane, but you know, I don't agree with encouraging, you know, mass immigration. That's what the capitalists do now, because it's an endless cheap labor source. We want to encourage people, or encourage countries to create better material conditions for their people, so they don't feel like they have to uproot their lives and leave their homes. And those people who are, you know, the
sure, sure.
immigrants who are here already who did have to leave because they fled U.S. imperialism, of course they can join the ACP, and of course they
Even
can
if they're an
fight
illegal
alongside us. But
immigrant?
we shouldn't look at this as a good thing, you know, like liberals do. Like, oh, isn't it so wonderful that 6 million Venezuelans fled our horrific
No,
economic
no.
warfare to come to the U.S.? It's not.
That
It's
that's
them fleeing their homes, and it helps capital.
no, no. I'm totally in agreement. I mean, so just to my a family member who's in immigration court is exactly this person. I mean, it's not immediate fallout, but he's Serbian, and he hates in many respects the U.S. for kind of destroying his country, and he came to the U.S. for opportunity on one of these very exploitative. Work visas where he was put in the middle of Alaska in a place where there was basically nowhere else he could get a job. It was just like this town where he had this kind of one place where he could work. And it's specifically set up so that they can basically commit all these violations of kind of
Right.
employment codes and whatnot, and uh, take advantage of these immigrants who oftentimes don't speak very good English, so they don't know their rights, and it also allows them to undercut local labor because these people don't have any alternative. If they quit, they're gonna be sent back home, right? They don't have the same kind of bargaining power that normal workers have, and because of that, you can afford to pay them a much lower wage. And he skipped out. He decided to leave and get a job somewhere else. But because of like the period of time and the way his visa worked out, now he's like facing deportation. He got ICE called on him. And the thing is, if we talk about why there are so many illegal immigrants in the U.S., and maybe regulating it, or how to address the problem, there's kind of two, it seems like, prevailing camps on how to deal with it. One is we need to spend more on things like ICE and securing the border and whatnot, and the other thing we can do is we can make immigration into the US easier. I mean, people are talking about things like removing
How
make
about dismantling U.S.
well,
imperialism? How about
okay,
not destroying these
we're
countries
we're
of
in, we're
forces?
in agreement
How
about.
would making immigration easier? Yeah, I mean, we don't. We this is what we don't want. We don't want to encourage mass immigration. We want to encourage economic development in the countries where people
Sure.
are already living. I mean, let me quick read to you the ACP. I pulled up the ACP program here. This is our position on this: ending mass immigration and modern slavery. The
Yeah.
Communist Party stands for the immediate end to the system promoting mass immigration and its replacement with bilateral frameworks for the negotiation of population exchanges on a rational and planned basis. Meaning,
Sure.
like you said, if people, you know, need to come here for legitimate reasons or have legitimate reasons to come here, we have a safe and humane process of letting them in, which is different from what we have now. You know,
Yes,
it's a
yes.
very inhumane system at the border. So
Just for
where,
the record,
of
just for
course,
the
you know, organizations like ICE would be, you know, sublated or you know, completely
sure.
transformed in how they operate. But what problem do you have with the actual ACP program on immigration that I just read?
What I have is I was in a space talking to Nikki, and people who at least claim to be in the ACP, whether or not they are is up for debate, I guess. But who were essentially arguing that, for example, if you're like the child of illegal immigrants and whatnot, you should be deported. They were basically talking. They were giving kind of all like the pro.
Okay, but Nikki has a lot of wingers and random people in her space. But let's focus on the program, the actual party program, because I'm a representative of the American Communist Party, not the people in Nikki's space. What
Okay,
problems
sure.
do you have with the actual position that our party takes on immigration? Because these individuals' positions are kind of irrelevant because they have no ability to actually enforce them. What matters is our party program.
I mean, so the way your party program is phrased, I don't quite understand exactly what it means concretely of um in terms of like what immediate policies you would be for or
It means like ending the things that your friend was subjected to in Alaska, where these immigrants are filtered into cheap jobs that go to, you know, enrich capital and the capitalist class, where they have no other option because of their precarious situation, because of them being immigrants. This is how capitalism uses immigrants. They use it to undercut their existing labor force, and they use it for or use immigrants for cheap labor, and that kind of setup is what we want to bring an end to,
yes.
among, you know, other things. But
Okay, I'm with you on that, but I think it would be, maybe I just want you to add something which is explicit about the kind of immediate demands, the kind of minimum program that we should be striving for is I mean, and just for the record, I think this would address a lot of your main concerns with the problems immigration brings about, labor undercutting domestic workers, imperialism, etc. Would be making it so that legal immigration is easier, not harder, protecting things, like protecting the rights of people like dreamers. If you're born in the US, you can become a citizen, stuff like that. And making the process to legal immigration easier. I mean, the thing is,
I think
well, wait, let me finish. The US spends a lot more on immigration than most countries on services like ICE. The reason why we
right.
have so many illegal immigrants coming into the country is not because, we're under policing them, right? It's not because our border is so much less secure than other countries. It's because we make it very difficult to become a citizen. And there's a lot of desperate people in neighboring countries who risk life and limb in order to come here. I mean, that's
Well,
the
that's not the main reason. The main reason
is the
isn't, you
US
know, I do
imperialism.
agree with what you're saying. The
Yeah,
main reason is that we're raping these other countries,
sure,
stealing
sure.
their resources, and
I,
that, you know,
you're
historically,
you're
anytime, you know, there's a colonial power destroying another country, the people
you don't need
in
to
the country
convince me
being targeted
imperialism is
flee to
real.
the
I'm
country.
I'm
Yeah.
with you there.
The diaspora always goes to the country that's imperializing them. So that is the root cause, and
My
dismantling U.S.
family is the victim
imperialism
of
is
imperialism. You don't need
also
to convince me.
in our program. Right. I'm just saying
Yeah, yeah.
what you said. The main reason is because of groups like
Sure,
ICE, and
sure.
that's not
I
true.
misspoke.
The main reason is because of imperialism, and
Yeah, yeah.
and I agree with you that, you know, the solution isn't just funneling more money into armed bodies of the state. Right. This is what maybe like right wingers see as a solution, but it's just a surface level thing that's not actually getting to the root cause. But our party does want to get to the root cause. We do want to attack imperialism, and when it comes to making legal immigration easier, I just hesitate to embrace that full stop, because I think it depends on the context, right? As our program says, it needs to be based on the economic plan of our society. You know, we need to know the reasons that somebody is coming in. There needs to be, you know, it needs to be looked at rationally. And you know, obviously it's not right now.
Well,
But I don't think saying, you know, just make it easier to come here full stop is the answer. I think it needs to be regulated, and done humanely. But whether someone is allowed to come to the U.S. or not, depends upon the context.
I don't understand why someone should be. I mean, I think that if we, stemmed imperialism and whatnot, for the most part, people don't want to leave their homes if they
Correct.
can afford it. I'm
Correct.
Besides, criminals or whatnot, which make up a vanishingly small percentage of people trying to emigrate to the US. And in fact, I think stopping them would be easier if we made it, if we made it easier to become a citizen of the US. I'm not You keep talking about these kind of nebulous downsides to uh making the immigration process easier, and I'm not sure what they are. Like what actually is your
It's
objection?
what do you mean? Like what is the downsides of encouraging mass immigration? It's that the capitalists use it to undercut the wages of their workers, and they exploit these people for cheap labor. I mean,
I mean,
that's why mass immigration is being promoted by so much of the capitalist class.
I think in the cases of these predatory work visas and whatnot, I to some extent am in agreement with you, but
It's not just that though, it's not just that. It's like the concrete companies in my area. There are, the most predatory companies. They'll hire two kinds of people: felons and illegal immigrants, and it's because the immigrants don't have that many other options.
yeah,
And I agree that if they're good workers, and if they would be productive, and if there's reason to have them here in the United States, then yeah, there should be a legal and humane process, which is what our program supports. But I'm not willing to say, yes, encourage, more, promote more illegal, or more
you keep
legal
saying promote,
immigration,
but
full stop. Well, that's what it would be if we made the, I mean, maybe the process of, I don't know, what explain to me
and just for the record,
what
j-
specifically would you add to our party program? So you would add to the program that you think it should be easier to become a legal immigrant? Because
well, I mean,
again, I don't agree with that it should be easier, full stop. It should be rational, based on the economic plan of
one
our
thing I
society
believe
and
is
the
that we
needs
should
of our
abolish
society.
ICE, which I'm assuming you disagree with.
No, I just said sublate ice. Like
Okay,
ice, the
sure,
way that
sure.
it functions now is,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I hesitate to use the word abolish, because there needs to be some kind of, organization, that's, some sort of state organization that handles immigration. Should
Yeah.
it function like ICE
I
under
I
capitalism? Obviously not.
I mean, just for the
ICE is an
record,
armed body of the state that serves as a tool of suppression by one class over another. It's
ICE
part
is
of the
ICE is not
capitalist state.
ICE is not the sole immigration body. They're basically just the cops that you call in illegal immigrants. For
Right, but you're gonna need some kind of, armed body of the state, that handles immigration in any society. You're gonna need something like that. Is ICE in its current form what we support? No, that's why immigration is in our program. That's why we put so much emphasis on having a humane border policy, because ICE is inhumane.
the thing is, I don't I'm not quite understand. You're
I'm
talking
not
kind of
either.
abstractly about.
No, I'm talking
Well, wait,
concretely
wait. Let
about
me
the
finish.
effects of immigration. You are
No,
talking
no.
abstractly about we
Okay.
should just
Can you let
encourage
me finish
more.
what
We
I was
should
gonna
make it
say? You didn't
easier.
even know what
We
I
should
was
make
gonna.
it easier for immigrants to come. You're the
No,
one
no,
who's talking in the abstract, my friend.
I was going to talk about one very specific thing, which is about the
Okay.
ways in which it helps the capitalist class. But the thing is, I'm not quite
Okay.
sure.
We're gonna move on after this one, by the way. So
Okay,
this is your make it
okay.
good.
Well, I don't know how good it'll be, but um, but I don't see what entitles people born in the U.S. to be able to you know be a citizen here versus someone who wants to move here for opportunities or whatever. I think if you make the argument that a greater pool of labor is good for the capitalist class, I don't understand why you don't argue for deporting American citizens. That seems like equally as absurd as trying to deport illegal immigrants who have
No,
been
because
here
an
for five
immigrant
years.
has a different an immigrant's position is much more precarious because
but
they
but the
can be
solution
deported, and
should be to
especially,
help them,
please let me
not to
finish.
deport them.
And who is calling to do mass deportations? Like, again,
Well,
you're just making stuff up that's not even in our party program.
sure.
But this thing that, why does a natural citizen have more right to live in the US than, somebody who's from Mongolia or whatever? This is just liberal open borders gobbledygook. Naturalized citizens give their labor to a country. Their communities are here. They know the people here. Their families are here. They're born and raised here. This is what creates a nation, and this is in Stalin's Marxism and the National Question. What creates a nation is the intercourse, LOL, that's what she said, between people. It's, economic intercourse, it's social intercourse, it's the connection between the people of that nation, whether it be economic, political, social, or whatever. That is what, is the concrete basis of a nation. And yeah, the people who, are born into that nation and grow up in that nation and labor for that nation, um, are in a different situation economically and politically and socially than somebody who moves in for whatever reason, who doesn't speak the language and comes from a different culture. And that's not to say these people are morally bad or whatever, but it doesn't make any economic and political sense to just, have open borders and let people come because we say, oh, well, they have the equal right, or an equal right to this country. They have an equal right um, to whatever. It needs to be done rationally and in connection with the actual economic plans and actual economic, what's the word I'm thinking of, processes or basis of our country. And this is why in practice, I mean, we can talk about, this moralistic abstract, everybody should deserve to live anywhere, we should have, no borders. That sounds good. That might sound good in your head, but in reality, every socialist country ever has had to have non-open borders, because if you just allow people to flow over the border, it screws with the economic plan. You can't keep track of everybody. You can't take care of everybody. And then, predatory capitalists under a capitalist mode of production, or a mode of production that's transitioning towards socialism or communism, can prey upon those people to, undercut the labor of their workers. And the reason they can do that is because immigrants are not the same as naturalized citizens. They are in a more precarious situation. They are coming from a different culture and a different country, and potentially speaking a different language. And this forces them to take jobs that are, low wage and, no protections, no benefits, which is beneficial to the most predatory and exploitative capitalists in the system. So, it might sound good morally to say that, we should just allow anybody to come here, make it easy for anybody to come here, but it doesn't make any economic and political sense. And there is a difference between somebody who was born in the United States versus somebody who moves in from Venezuela because the US is destroying their country. The immigrant is going to be in a much more precarious situation, which is going to pressure them to accept lower wages, less benefits, whatever, which then capitalists can hire them instead of natural citizens, which forces those natural citizens, out of their job, or drives the wages down in the market, which is why you have so much anti-immigrant sentiment among the working class, which of course the right wing, and the so-called populist right then preys upon, and tries to stoke and tries to rile up. And we're not doing any of that, and Haz has repeatedly spoken out against the people who are doing that, the people who are pushing this anti-immigrant rhetoric. Immigrants are pieces of shit. Immigrants are criminals. We need to, give ICE 50 caliber machine guns, strengthen ICE. That's not the communist position. As I said, it needs to be more humane. But to say that we should encourage more immigration to the US, whether illegal or illegal, is not the communist position. It's never been the communist position, and it would be disastrous economically. But thank you so much, Jules, for coming on. That argument was getting a little stale for me, but I appreciate you. Joining to talk. All right, who's next? My boy, internationalist acceleration is here. Modern Marxist 05. I don't think they like to. Talk or whatever, or do debates or anything. I know they disagree with us, but I'm actually happy to see them in there. What's up in here? What's up, buddy? All right, who's next? Where's Haz? Haz told me. Let's see what Haz texted me. Oh, he said he was fighting demons. He was fighting demons in the bathroom. He texted me that like 15 minutes ago though, so I don't know where that boy is. All right, who's next? We got this guy with I think this Andrew Owen fellow was here first. We'll let him in. Hello, Andrew. You are muted, my friend. Andrew. Did he walk away from the computer?
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Sorry. I forgot to unmute myself.
You're good.
Yeah. Yeah, I have some, I don't know, questions. I've been trying to transcend the false left right dilemma. I guess I kind of am one of those right coded on social issues, working class people. And there's some particular sticking points for me personally. I'm a Orthodox Christian, and there's like I've actually been around immigrant Orthodox communities and USSR flags and the such, and it's just this weird situation where we have martyrs who were whites or white coated, and then in the same breath it's the Soviet Church, so it's a I don't know. Are there any good resources historically in regards to that, or what are some other just good things for me to read on?
Yeah, there's this guy you gotta follow named Orthodox Canonist. He'll clear
Uh huh.
everything up for you. Just kidding. Don't follow that guy. I
Yeah.
don't know. That's a tough question. It's not something that I'm super well read on.
Uh
Maybe
huh.
Oz will have a better response for you, though. I honestly have nothing. I apologize. Um,
No, that's okay.
I mean, what's your question exactly?
Um, I don't know. I don't know if. Sorry if this is a little bit of a time waster, but
No, you're good.
yeah. I mean, just solid historical reasons. Sorry. Historical solid historical works just to read up on some of these controversies.
On the controversies between the Russian Orthodox Church and the communists.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see. I mean, um, again, this isn't definitely not my area of expertise. There is someone in our party who you could follow though, because he has taught me a lot about this. His name is like Marix on Twitter.
Uh huh.
Like Marix or maybe exclamation point X. I'm sorry, I know I'm not giving you a book or anything useful. I'm just giving you some guy's Twitter account, but he's a Christian, and he's taught me a lot about how the Bolsheviks were actually did a lot to strengthen the church, and to give Russian people their religious freedoms. And he looks at, that's one of the main reasons that he supports the Bolsheviks, because of what they did for the church, which is interesting and not a perspective I come from. But yeah, he might be a good resource. Sorry, that's not great, but
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, it's just this weird situation where pretty much all of our
oh, he's in
martyrs.
here.
Oh, great.
M4R exclamation point X, and then his bio says Orthodox Christian Marxist-Leninist. He's a great
Mhm.
resource for this stuff.
Okay. What was his name again? Sorry.
Sorry, he's in this space right now. M4R exclamation point X.
Okay.
Yeah.
M4R exclamation point X.
Yes.
And
Here,
then
I'm just gonna have him on quick, and then we'll go
yeah.
to Haz, and then I'll let him try and answer your question. What's up, brother? Help me out here.
Hey, I'm actually at the gym right now, so give me like 20 minutes or 10, 20 minutes.
Okay, well, I guess he'll get back to you later. All right, let's move on though. Thank you, Andrew, for coming on. We got the man himself, the great Khan, the chairman of the ACP, Haz in the space. What's up, Haz? How's it going?
Yeah, I'm just dealing with stream issues because the stream is really getting fucked with. Like, my viewers are saying they've never experienced anything like this. It's not happening to anyone else on Kick, and it's actually baffling. It's like their screens are black, and the stream is just constantly getting fucked, and it's like it makes no sense at all.
What the fuck?
It's so weird, and we just had like an attack of like a bunch of weird people in our chat. Like, we don't know where it's coming from, but it's like super weird. It's so fucking weird. I don't know. Yeah,
That's sketchy.
it's super sketchy. Yeah.
Fucking NSA. Should I just bring someone else on then while you get that figured out?
Yeah, I
Or do
guess.
you want me to just wait?
No, I mean, you can bring people on. I'm just trying to deal with this issue.
Okay. Let's see here. How about Champagne Socialist? Hello.
Hey man, what's going on?
Not much.
Hey, I was just joining, not really to like, not as fun, not to like debate or disagree, but I just kind of wanted to talk about like my experience, you know, watching you on TikTok and then, following you on your other social medias as they got banned and then finding you again and following you again, etc. And then seeing the ACP get formed and kind of being introduced to like Haas and Jackson and everybody. And I thought at first, like everybody likes to talk about Jackson, I've noticed, and
Very
like,
much so.
but I kind of picked up on the whole. He really seems to speak like have like a large, anti-imperialist, anti-war audience that sometimes will be like super right wing and
Socially conservative, yeah.
socially conservative, yeah, I guess. And that can be off-putting to people. Like, I mean, the first time I saw him post like with the MAGA hat or the Trump edit, I was like kind of like, what the fuck? But then I quickly realized I was like, oh, he's, talking to the working class, not like online leftists. And
Thank you.
that was kind of like an opening thing for me because like
Mm-hmm.
I am, I consider myself working class. I've, worked full time, I'm around people that are pretty socially conservative for the most part, and when
Me as well.
yeah, so you deal with people that you say communism and it's a really bad word and it's really hard to
Mm-hmm.
like get people to swallow that pill. So I quickly kind of picked up on what he was doing, where I was like, oh, he's actually doing something instead of just going and performing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to commend the party on that because, being a new leftist when I was and, following like the American Communist Party, the PCL, and just seeing them be like, oh, just vote Bernie and AOC and,
Mm-hmm.
you're a communist. And I'm like, that seems weird to me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Definitely. No, I agree so much, and it's so frustrating for me because I am surrounded by these people as well, not so much at the workplace, but in the wrestling community.
oh, yeah,
There are
for
so
sure.
many people who are socially conservative but are working class and realize the system is broken. And I cannot tell them to follow Hassan Piker or someone from DSA because they're going to say things that are off putting to them. I tell all of these people, follow Jackson Hinkle. They do. And then the
All
next
right,
time I
I'm
talk
back.
to them,
Sorry to
they have.
interrupt.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Um, I'll just finish my thought here quick. But when these people come back to me, they have more anti-imperialist and more pro-communist leanings because of Jackson. And then you hear these people like Hassan Piker, who's in a gated community in Los Angeles, shitting on Jackson for having social conservative positions. It's like, dude, I know you live in a left-wing bubble where you don't have to interact with MAGA people and you just call them hogs and pretend that they don't exist. But that's not an option for me in the cornfields of Iowa, in the wrestling rooms of Iowa. I have to talk to MAGA people and socially conservative people. And guess what? There's nobody better to tell them to follow online for news and information and anti-imperialist politics versus Jackson, because I know he's not going to say anything in terms of culture war issues or whatever, that's going to be off-putting to them. So for those of us who are surrounded by socially conservative people, it's such a powerful resource and a powerful weapon. And I think people living on maybe the coasts or college students who are surrounded with people who think the same way that they do, they don't understand this. They don't understand that it's a strategy.
Or like chronically online. But yeah,
That too.
I completely agree, because like, like from personal experience, like I work in a restaurant, and one of my coworkers he loves Trump, and he was really excited when he got elected. And I'm pretty vocal where I was like, yeah, I'm not necessarily stoked about that, but I'm not surprised. And I would say things like that, so it's not like, oh, this
Right.
guy's a fucking lib. He just like understands I'm not quite on the MAGA level, but like I get what he's talking about. And he says, and most of his concerns are like, we got to stop giving money to Israel. We got to stop giving money to Ukraine. And I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, dude, I totally agree. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so me
Yeah,
and him are
people
on the
don't
same
realize
page on
how
so
much
many
in line.
things.
Yeah, people don't realize how much the MAGA folks are in line with us either. That's
Yeah,
the other thing you miss when you lock yourself in a bubble. It's like, other than the social issues or whatever, and um, not to say we're even in disagreement with them on those issues, but like on the core issues, the economics and the issue of imperialism, a lot of MAGA people are 100% in line. They just are scared of the word communism, and that's what Jackson is doing, is destigmatizing the word for them. But
exactly. Like, so they stop thinking Kamala is a communist, which is the
right,
most frustrating thing in the world to me. And that's the type of thing that he like will say to me. And he's like, "Oh, well, you don't want to vote for the communists." And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, I don't know which direction you're trying to go with this, because I've heard people call Trump communist and Kamala communist because it's just synonymous with like bad, something I
right,
don't like.
right.
And but he and I will agree on like, we don't need to be in these wars. And he's actually a veteran, and he was, it was
Mm.
like around Desert Storm era. So he knows what imperialism looks like, firsthand. And like I said, me and him aren't going to agree on everything, but
Right.
the
You don't have
point is seeing a guy like you and a guy like Jackson reaching, like they like to say, across the aisle, I guess, but not
to.
really, because we're the same. We
Right.
just read books and understand like what these terms mean, and these people have just been lied to, you know?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and we reach them with class politics rather than culture war politics. But I think we're gonna move on because we want to
Yeah,
get
we're
some
looking
spicy
for
debating. So
adversarial, we're
appreciate
looking
you,
for
brother.
people to debate us. So,
Yeah, no, I understand. I appreciate it. I
yeah.
just wanted to say I love the
Yep.
work you guys are doing, and,
Thanks so much.
thank you, man.
All right, let's find some haters now. Let's find some wretched people. Mm, that looks like a gorilla. All right, we'll go with, where'd that guy go? The bird. Hello, the bird.
What's going on, guys?
So much.
Um, well, okay, I don't know if this is going to be so much of a debate, but I I think Trump is the perfect president um, to take America out of its empire era, and I think he's the right man for that job. He's the equivalent of not Nero, but he's the guy that's going to make everyone see America for what it really is, and especially as an African American, the African American population is devastated, quote unquote. Um, and I just think that he's the perfect guy for that job. Um,
I mean, I'll let Haz weigh in on this, but I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, I don't know that he'll tank the Empire, but I think at the very least he takes the mask off. Like when he said, like when he says things like, if I was president, we would have taken all the oil from Venezuela. I mean, that's one way where he just explicitly says what's going on. Whereas somebody like Obama was a perfect manager of the empire. That's why the liberals worship him, because he was so good at putting a friendly face, or a quote unquote progressive face, even though he's not progressive at all, on the face of the American empire. Whereas Trump kind of rips that off and shows the American empire for what it is. Much of his base is totally opposed to all these wars. You know, he was criticizing the Ukraine war on the campaign trail and stuff. I don't know. I don't see his election as a bad thing, but I'll let Haz weigh in.
Look, I think when we're talking about Trump, we're entering into territory of speculation. What are Trump's motivations? What does he want to do? There's some conflicting messaging, obviously, and there's conflicting action even. Because it's true, there's some kind of conflict going on up there. And the idea that all of this is staged, I think is a little bit, I think that's a little bit far-fetched. I don't know, maybe, who knows? But again, it's speculation. Yeah, clearly something is going on, but I think it's kind of just a matter of speculation. But the significance, I think, is twofold. Now, one, yeah, we started the MAGA communism thing because we recognized how MAGA has changed American politics irreversibly and created the possibility to articulate anti-imperialism on a new basis. Well, not necessarily on a new basis, but in a new form, right? And then I think the second thing, the reason we're more or less happy with the outcome of the election is it has a lot to do with the fact that the positive is overwhelmingly the destructive effect of how the Democratic Party has been destroyed, or defeated at least. And why is that so good? Because the Democratic Party is the party of hegemony. The Republican Party is a kind of false opposition. And why am I saying that? Because at least I'm thinking in terms of middle America and small towns where Republicans will kind of grift off of evangelicism, they'll grift off of sensationalism. And, that is really kind of how they present themselves to their constituents, that they're somehow going, Ted Cruz even has this false rhetoric or whatever. But what we can all understand, at least superficially, is that the Republican Party is disaligned from the other machinery of the hegemony in ways the Democrats aren't. The Republicans are openly bribed politicians. They are openly bribed by the ruling class. They're openly bribed by AIPAC. And in terms of their ability to actually be like a respectable governing, under Reagan, they managed to kind of pull it off. Under George W. Bush, they managed to kind of pull it off. But Obama was the president that oversaw, there's two things. One, the new Democrats under Clinton Democrats, right? Whatever they're called. They did a lot to really institutionally consolidate neoliberalism in ways the Republican Party just wasn't capable of. And I think the second thing is that Obama is the one that initiated this kind of new relationship where, in addition to Hollywood, in addition to the networks, with the notable exception of Fox News, obviously, you now had Silicon Valley, you now had social media. And so the Democratic Party has become this extremely well-oiled machine, which represents the most cohesive and powerful organized body of the state machine if we had to look at the two parties. That's not to say there isn't a possibility that something like that can emerge out of the Republican Party. There is. But for now, it hasn't. For now, the Republican Party is a circus. It's a mess. It's turmoil. It's chaos. And Trump's ability to sweep the Republican ticket it's proof of that. So it's very good that the Democratic Party has been defeated. It's a very, very good thing. It's very, very good because the Democratic Party has maintained a monopoly on the left in this country for a very long time. And they have been very vicious and ruthless. Let's be clear about something. I agree with some liberal leftists that Bernie Sanders in 2015 specifically was the closest thing to like the beginning of a left-wing kind of political movement in the US of some kind. But no one launched a more vicious campaign against that specific movement in terms of propaganda and in material fact, in terms of how they rigged the primaries against him, literally, than the DNC. So since then, at least, the DNC has been the number one obstacle to the construction and growth of a left wing in the United States. I mean, the DNC is the enemy of the left. So if we want left-wing politics to thrive in the United States, we have to allow the Democratic Party to be destroyed. And while the regime scrambles to take a new form, whether that's with the Republican Party or something else, while it's in turmoil and while it's in chaos, the task is to seize that opportunity to build a new independent politics. Now, that's what should have happened after 2016. That's what should have happened. And as a matter of fact, the DSA saw tremendous growth after 2016 because a lot of people expected them to be that, right? But what happened instead? They continued to be cheerleaders for the Democratic Party. They had all kinds of ways, all kinds of mental gymnastics to justify why, no, we're not ready yet. We still have to follow the Democrats. It's urgent. It's the most important midterm, whatever. And it never happened. The DSA never amounted to an independent third party. It never even endeavored to do that. And then 2020 came, and Bernie had his go around again, and it was a complete shit show. I mean, there were none. It was he wanted to correct for the errors of 2015, and by correct for the errors, he means shield himself from all of the criticisms that the DNC made of him in 2015, that it was too masculine and it was too many Bernie bros and whatever, and it was too white. And so he overcorrected, and it really repelled. Working class people because it was just this virtue signaling, inauthentic nonsense.
That's so true. And they would, I mean, as someone who worked on the campaign, when I would tweet negative things about Biden, I would get in trouble, and I would get a text from the higher up saying you need to delete that because we're running, a friendly campaign. We're not attacking other Democrats. He was trying to capitulate, and he didn't, realize they're gonna attack you anyways, Bernie. You could be as nice to them as you want. It's just gonna make you look like a cuck.
Because, as we know, because we're Marxists and we know that politics is war. It's if there's real political differences being expressed, it's a class contradiction, and that is an insurmountable contradiction that manifests itself in the form of warfare. So there's no morality in politics. There's no, lesser evil this, lesser evil that. Politics is ruthlessness, and it's war. Even when you're being pragmatic in politics, you're not being pragmatic so that the policies you want to see that benefit the country. No, you're being pragmatic for fucking power. Do the thing that's going to ensure that your class dominates the other class, period, and seizes power. There's no fucking morality involved at all. So,
hey, Haz,
yeah.
I just, if I could just interject for a brief second, I just want to lay these 2 points on you guys, and then you guys let me know how you feel. I think Trump, as I
You cut out, Bernie.
Yeah, you cut out, but look, I'll wrap it up about Trump. Trump has not proven. Well, look, it doesn't matter what Trump's motivations are. It really doesn't. All right. For 4 years, this country was ruled supposedly by a man who had dementia, and still the government was going about its business in the same way that it was before. So the president doesn't actually matter. It's just the truth. The president doesn't matter. And I mean, look, if you can have dementia and the state machine is going on as normal, then you can be Trump, and your agency means nothing. All Trump did is he kind of took credit for things, and he bragged about things, and he attached his personality to this impersonal state machine in a lot of ways. But he himself has no agency, all right? Who has agency is very difficult to map out concretely. but we know it's not a personality. We know it's not an individual. That's as much as we can understand. So, do I think Trump is gonna dismantle the empire? No, but I think he might be a symptom of the contradictions within the empire accelerating to such a point where, yeah, the empire could self-destruct. And the form of that self-destruction is a civil war, domestic civil war in this country. A domestic civil war, which, if it got so out of hand and out of proportion, would require the intervention of NATO or something, right? Or who knows? We're speculating now, but we just, it's early. It's still too early to tell what's going to happen. Do I think there's a possibility that Trump is going to, you know, end up fighting the deep state? No, I just don't. If that happened, I'd be extremely, extremely surprised. I think, but where I'm looking for, where I'm curious, I should rather say, is there a possibility that we could still see a civil war happen? Is he going to get caught up with the courts? Is he going to be in jail while president? Is there going to be a constitutional crisis under his presidency? His cabinet choices seem like they're going to be resisted. Some of them, Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz, seem like those are going to be resisted by by Congress. Seems like even Republicans have voiced that they are not going to vote in favor of it.
Yeah, that's the real question, because I agree with everything you said. America's facing a crisis of legitimacy, like with the political system, and it's just that, like you said, I think Trump appointing Marco Rubio is, a death blow in the idea that he's going to bring about the end to the deep state himself, but he might exacerbate this crisis of legitimacy and exacerbate, the decay of imperialism, really, and lead to, like a civil war type thing, or a Democratic Party J6. I think that's the real question, but it's all
Right. I
speculation,
don't
like you
see
said.
the way the Democrats move is they're such fucking disgusting vermin and snakes. And yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
personal. I do hate them. The way they move is not J6. They're not going to like go riot openly in the Capitol. And no, that's not how they move. How they move is they go behind the scenes like eunuchs. They do
Yep.
something where maybe they'll find a loophole, and maybe there'll be a state versus federal It'll be organized and it'll be institutional, but it's not going to, I don't think it's going to be like J6. I think it's going to be like some fuck shit, because that's what they do. That's what they do. We looked
Yep.
at it when they rigged the primary against Bernie, and while they were rigging it, they looked into the cameras with their faces, and they looked with their eyes, and they were smiling. They were smiling as they rigged it. These are the type of people that run the Democratic Party, bunch of fake snake bitches. And I was so happy Trump won, because I just want them to be humbled. I want them to be destroyed.
Absolutely. Let's let Yellow Jacket in here.
No.
Oh, sorry, no.
No. Only
Okay.
leftists.
Oh, is she right winger? All right. Sorry, Yellow Jacket. I don't know how to remove from speaker. There we go. Okay, I didn't know who that person was.
Only leftists for debates.
Okay. Let's do Mecha God. This looks like a leftist. Wait, Mecha God. Hopefully this isn't a gorilla.
Mecha is a gorilla thing. Yo, are you a gorilla?
Right.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay, sorry. We're only doing debates right now. Thank you for your support. Marthad, proud Shia, proud communist, socially radical. Okay. This might be good. Hello. Hello.
Hello again. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Hopefully I said that right.
The reply is Alaikum salam.
Oh,
I'm
sorry. I'm
though.
not
Hazard.
Muslim. I'm just a dumb
Alaikum
ninja.
assalam. Who? What's your name? Marthad.
Martha Chingiru Muchaba.
All right. What's going on?
Yes. I'm good. How are you? Good. Yeah,
Do
I'm
you
good. I'm good.
do you have a critique?
A critique.
Yeah.
I think there was a little bit of the analysis of what happened with the Bernie campaign. That the view that it became less favorable after they talked about issues concerning race and gender. I think I don't think that was the problem. In fact, I think some of the positions that the Sanders Party took, like for example, being opposed to reparations, uh, other party candidates used that against them, and it was kind of a running tactic that they used to kind of rally black voters behind Biden. So I
I
don't
mean,
think it was that they.
I don't think Sanders. I don't think Sanders had a chance as far as overwhelmingly winning the black vote at all. There's nothing he could have done to do that, and I can actually explain why. The Democratic parties, and when I say the Democratic Party, I mean the Democratic establishment. Their machine that they have in the black community is an extremely well-oiled machine that they built, and there is no way Bernie Sanders, who comes from outside that community, is going to bypass that whole kind of corrupt machinery where the Democrats have, anointed leaders that they bribe, and it's literally like a criminal syndicate. The only way that black voters would come around to Bernie Sanders style left wing populism is if like there was already an independent black movement in those communities gaining traction that the community trusts, that they know, and Bernie, made an alliance with that guy, and that would be how you undercut the Democrats. But Bernie appealing to minorities was completely pointless in general. If he was going to be ultimately going up against Trump, his job should have been to try to win the majority in Middle America as much as possible. The majority of the country in general, by the way. Also, Latinos. He was very popular among Latinos already. So, but Latinos are not. First of all, I don't think black people care about virtue signaling about race. They don't give a shit about that in the black community. The reason they vote Democrat isn't because they're liberal. It's not. It's because the leaders in the black community are appointed there and put there by the Democrats as like a form of bribery. And it's the churches, everything. It's similar to the South with the Republican Party. I don't want to get too deep into the analysis. All the virtue signaling stuff, it's not even for black people. It's not even for Latinos. It's not even for racial minorities. It's for fucking college students. That's what it's for. It's not even just for let's even go further. It's not even for college students, because the majority of college students just want their debt forgiven. They don't even care about it. It's for a small minority of college students. Who are they? Activists. It's literally for the activists, the people who work on the campaigns. That's who it's for. It's not even for any mass demographic. It's literally just for the people who had the disposition to work on political campaigns, who are babies, who are selfish, who had no notion of selflessness, and wanted it to be all about them and their feelings. So in the name of appeasing the campaign staff and the NGO workers and the activists and all these people, not just the blue-collar working classes, okay, but also minorities, also students, also PMC. The majority of PMC, the majority probably don't even give a shit about, intersectionality or whatever. They don't care. They're also trying to make a living. Now, is their class basis more conducive to that stuff to make them more receptive to it? Sure. But the people for whom it's a black and white issue are still in the minority, believe it or not. When you actually get the blue collar working class, you get everyone, because the blue collar working class is the center. Because it's not like everyone's segregated into different jobs. Okay, blue collar workers are usually breadwinners. Okay, they're usually a very important part of the household. If they're not an important part of the household, they're very respected among their families. They could have sisters and mothers and grandmothers, whatever, grandparents and brothers who do other kinds of work and other kinds of job. But who are you going to call when your roof needs to get fixed? Who are you going to call when you need shit to get done? You know, who are you going to call when you need some real help? You call your blue collar family member, right? They have a lot of authority, prestige, and respect. They usually are very independent. They don't, have to care about HR at all. They need to get work done. They have that prestige. If you look at every single election within the past 20 years, it's the blue collar workers that have tipped it. Why did Trump win this time? Because the blue collar workers went to Trump. Why did Biden win in 2020? Because he got it good in with the unions. Why did Trump win in 2016? Because the blue collar workers. Why did Obama win before Trump? Because the blue collar workers went with Obama. It's always been about them, all American politics. And Bernie did not prioritize them. He did not see them. He saw only the dumb people working on his campaign. It's very sad. Not Eddie,
It's
not a
so
swipe
true.
at you, but you get what I'm saying.
No, dude, you're. I mean, and people can go back and watch the videos that I did with my one of my wrestling buddies who was also a communist, worked on the campaign with me, and we made a video after the campaign making our criticisms of Bernie, and it's exactly what you were saying. It was the pandering to the staff. It was the staff of the campaign who were these careerist liberals who are now Biden Democrats or working for the Democratic Party. They weren't there to get people health care. They were there, and this isn't everyone. There were good people who worked on the campaign, but the higher ups were there to use it as a resume builder. They were careerists and social climbers, and those were the kind of people who hijacked the campaign and turned it towards a focus on pandering to minorities. And by the way, most of these staffers were white. And yet they wanted to make basically pandering to different minority groups the thrust of their politics. And this went as far as like the party infrastructure, the canvassing infrastructure that we used would only send us to the houses of Democrats. So me and my friend had multiple occasions where we were walking through these wealthy ass neighborhoods, where people had like 3-door garages, and we're talking to them about Bernie, and they're basically like, well, I have good health care, so why would I give a shit about single payer health care? And then we would try to suggest, there's a bunch of blue collar workers in this area, or there's a bunch of poor working class people in these other areas. Why don't we go there? Why don't we ditch the canvassing app, this canvassing infrastructure that was designed by the campaign that sent us to the houses of Democrats only, and mostly upper middle class Democrats? Why don't we ditch that and speak to the blue collar workers? And it was not allowed. We were stopped at every turn by the campaign staff. And we actually met some people who, were pro Bernie because they were working class guys, and they were pro Bernie because of his economic populism. And they basically came into the office one day, and they told me and my friend, this campaign is infiltrated with feds. It's run by a bunch of Democratic careerists. Ignore what your bosses are telling you. Ignore the campaign staffers, because they're the ones who are going to sink this whole thing. And then once we met those guys, we started basically just ignoring what the staffers would tell us to do, and we would do what we knew was best because it was our community that we had lived in for years. So what you're saying is 100% true, and I saw it from inside, inside the campaign, not just inside the campaign, but inside the campaign in the state of Iowa, which is the most important state for primary elections because it's the first state. So we had people, the campaign spent tons of money there, sent tons of staffers to the location that I'm at in Iowa. They took over, they set up a whole Bernie office for like a year there. And what Haz said is exactly what happened. And it was, yeah, it wasn't about, trying to do things for Black Americans or whatever. It was solely about pandering to the staffers of the campaign and pandering to the Democratic Party establishment itself.
So, just for clarity, I would like to ask a question. So, what do you decide is the difference in terms of?
You cut out, brother.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, what is the difference between the kind of rhetoric that's simply just pandering and actual policies that you would oppose that you don't think are actually going to address systemic issues?
Well, I don't
I'm
actually
wondering
think.
about whether you actually oppose.
Yeah, I don't think
affirmative
policy.
action.
I don't think policy matters at all. I think once you understand that politics is warfare, it's about how you address your enemies. Okay, it's about a few things, right? First, it's about how you address the contradiction. How are you addressing the fact that the system is rigged in the first place? Why don't people have, for example, let's say the healthcare is what everyone cares about. Well, you need to address why they don't already have it. You need to address what forces stand in the way of getting it. You need to address how there's this, maybe they'll call it the establishment that's getting in. You need to communicate to the masses who the enemy is, who should they target, and who should they fight. And you can't back down. And you need to keep fighting and going. And you need to take risks and have bold moves where you say, no, I'm not going to compromise. And what do I mean by compromise? In terms of policy? No. In terms of power. I am not going to endorse Joe Biden if he wins. Why? Because he's corrupt. When they asked, I never forgot it, on the RNC stage, they asked Trump, they go, will you endorse the Republican nominee? Trump said, no. I'm under no obligation to do that. I may even just run independent. The shock of the audience that was there, they booed him. That was there, right? The Fox News audience, the rich Republicans. But when working people saw Trump say that, holy fuck, this guy has balls. He'll fight for us. He's standing for something that he's willing to put some leverage on. He's willing to fight for this. He's willing to risk the victory of the Democrats. And that communicated them that he wasn't just a Republican. He was something else. And that's what Bernie needed to be. He didn't have the balls. He was a pussy.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't understand that it's war.
Right. That was one of the most common things I heard during the campaign was we need Bernie's policies with Trump's balls. And that was it. He didn't understand that it was war. Like you said, he capitulated to the Democrats.
Bernie should have gone on the microphone. I'm sorry for using French. 2015, he said, Hillary Clinton is a stupid bitch. Now look. Oh, it's sexism. That's our problem with the woke stuff. You're fucking tone policing us when we're in the middle of a war. Get your priorities straight. You need to make it more inclusive and you need to pander to trans people. I'm in the middle of a fucking war, and if you're trying to stop me from destroying my enemy in the middle of a war, you are working for the enemy. Politics is not moral. There's no morality in politics. And if there is morality in politics, it just ain't personal. And all these narcissists wanted to make it about themselves. They wanted not only to make it personal, but to make it about them personally. There is no sense of impersonal collectivism, that this is about masses, this is about people. This is about the American people, let's say. The American working class. At least Corbyn had that slogan, for the many, not the few. But what about collectivism? What about, no, it's not about you personally. It's about us. Put us before me. Put us before you. And all he had to do is be a warrior. It's all he had to do. He couldn't do it.
Have it in him.
Yeah.
Didn't have it. Because ultimately, here's why. Because these so-called liberal progressives They don't fucking believe. They don't believe it's worth fighting for. They don't believe a left wing is worth fighting for. They don't even they're cynical about it. Oh, that's for suckers. Because they don't understand that the left wing isn't about being a good person. It's never been about that. It's never been about empathy and compassion and being good versus being bad. Sure, when all is said and done, you could say that, but that's never what it was about. It was never about, being warm and comfy and cozy and wholesome. The left wing has always been about only one thing: change, revolutionary change. Revolution. That's literally from the beginning, from the French Revolution. The people who sat on the left said, behead the fucking king. People who sat on the right said, let's preserve the existing system. Before there was any morality, before there was any compassion, before there was any kind of wholesomeness, all this nonsense, it was change. It was destroy the system, topple the system, replace the system. The system must end. And why must it end? Who said that the system must end just because it hurts our feelings? That's not what they've said. That's not what the left wing of history has said. The left wing of history said this system, this state must go because its continuation is impossible without being fundamentally absurd and contradictory and corrupt. It must go because it has already died. Its soul has already died. All they were doing is being honest about what happened. The king must be beheaded. Why? Because we never had a fucking king in France for decades. Our king is a cuckold. And this bitch Marie Antoinette is fucking everyone in Europe. He's not even the one ruling us. Austria's ruling us. When the Bolsheviks executed, well, that was a different story. When the Tsar got overthrown by the masses in Russia, did they say, oh, should we get rid of our king? He's our king. He's not our king. Rasputin, something's going on and it's foul in the court of the so-called king, and he's indebted to French banks. He's not the one in charge. So you see, that's the left wing. It has nothing to do with being wholesome and being compassionate and being nice and not wanting to hurt feelings. When we say justice, we're not talking about something personal. We're not talking about personal grievances, that this is unjust because my pronouns in the bathroom toilet aren't being flushed down, whatever the fuck they're complaining about. Justice is metaphysical. Justice is cosmic in scale. Justice is about what must be according to the laws of nature, according to the laws God gave to mankind. Just according to the laws, the very nature of being itself. That's justice. Did Robespierre get on his podium and give speeches about how fucking transgenders' feelings aren't being validated? Or did he give speeches about how divine providence itself necessitated the Republic of Virtue, necessitated rooting out the enemies of the people? So you see, forgive this dramatic presentation of mine. But I see, I'm being told you've compared our program to that of the Nazi Party. And I'm trying to explain to you that if this sounds Nazi to you, you've been lied to about what the left wing has always been from the very beginning, my good sir.
Okay, the reason why I made the comparison was because of your fundamental opposition to affirmative action. And affirmative action programs are implemented in many communist states. And another thing I would like to mention is,
brother, I got to cut you off on that because, they Western scholars call it affirmative action, but, in reality, you need to know what you're talking about here. You're talking about the Soviet Union. You're talking about different SSRs and ASRs. And have they ever, I mean, yeah, they took these things in considerations into account when they were planning for uplifting certain peoples who needed extra help and so on and so on. But is that how affirmative, we say the word affirmative action? This is a very specific policy we have in the US. Do Brahmins from India need affirmative action? Who come from the top caste in India that immigrate to the USA? Sir, do they need affirmative action in your view?
No.
But they get it anyway. Did you know that? Universities
Well,
and
yes,
college give it to
US
them because they're minorities, because they're not white. So they get it. So it's kind of nonsense when you think about it, talking about affirmative action. So the communist states had very targeted and very specific, and it wasn't personal, by the way. It wasn't about empathy and compassion. It was about, we want the Tuvan ASSR, Tuvan ethnic group. We want them to have some educated people, you know, engineers and scientists and stuff, so they can go back and they can develop and whatever. So that was the point. The point wasn't about, you know, grievance and all this nonsense and revenge and feelings being hurt.
Now, I think comparing the U.S. racial caste system and how they integrate people basically with the same ideology, like the Brahmins who believe in caste, I'm not saying that those two are the same. I'm not saying that implement of affirmative action is the same as a communist one. But what I'm trying to understand, and
communists never guilted Russians. They never guilted great Russians and said, "Oh, you know, sit down, Russian, sit down, Russian. A Chechen is speaking. Sit down, Russian." An Armenian.
Check your privilege.
Okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration.
If you went into a Bolshevik meeting and Lenin was speaking and you stood up, sit down, Russian. Sit down, Russian. A Kazakh is speaking from Kazakhstan. They would take out a revolver and shoot you on the spot with that nonsense. They never had anything like that.
I think it's kind of ridiculous to compare some of the showy white liberal stuff that is done in the U.S.
Right? Yeah, I get that, but that's what what's fucking everything up. That's what's been fucking everything up, though. That's what fucked Bernie's campaign. That's what fucks every leftist organization besides ours, because we don't do that. And it's been the problem because it's that easy. Because imagine you're standing up and you're giving a speech so passionate, and then somebody raises their hand and they go, "Why don't you let a disabled person speak? What do you think you're better?" And then what are you going to say? You're like, "Well, I mean, I didn't mean to, you know, I didn't know I was offending." Like, that's the dynamic it creates. And it's, you know, an army can't, the working class is at war with the ruling class. How can the army of the working class function if this is what's happening? Every time morale is trying to be built, we all have to feel guilty and resentful and aggrieved and bow our heads in silence because an obese person is speaking, because fat phobia is a problem.
I don't think a functioning army can have too many people like that in terms of physical ability. And we're coming to think about it anyways. But asking about, because for a lot of the time, I think you've been talking about ideas and tactics that you think would be better in the American political environment for electoral tactics. Is that what my way of understanding it, or are you just trying to prepare a party to be able to do whatever it takes?
The second thing, preparation. And yeah, we want to be involved in local elections. We want to win as many of those as we can. We want to build solid bases. We want to have entire towns go red. We want to have entire red neighborhoods where they say, don't go in that neighborhood. It's run by the Reds. Don't mess around in that. See, we want things like this. We want to build within the real civil society a base of operation. We want to be in the soil and the roots, so that when shit hits the fan, which it inevitably will, because the country. Remember something: the Bolsheviks didn't overthrow the Tsar. The Tsar got overthrown before the Bolsheviks came to power. Why? Because the whole system of the Russian Empire toppled head first on its face, on its own accord. Lenin didn't need to do anything. So same thing will happen to the U.S. empire. And all we need to be is prepared. And we can't be prepared if we're not disciplined. And we can't be disciplined if we lack morale. And we can't have morale if we're treating politics as something personal.
Okay. So this is maybe an unrelated question. I'll go back to what we were talking about before, but I'm just wondering, assuming you do succeed and somehow manage to take power, do you still want to invade Canada?
Well, we won't need to because we know, because 1,000%, if we ever came to power in this country, Canada would by itself start fucking with us with the aid of England, Britain. By the way, fuck the MI6, you fat fuck MI6 agent who keeps fucking with my shit. And we would launch nuclear weapons at them in response, whatever it takes to get them off our backs and fully annex them and conquer them. And if Europe tried to fuck with us when we took power, we're launching a thermonuclear war in every major capital of every single European country that dares send a single boot on the soil of liberated America. And that goes for the whole world.
All right. So I guess the second question is, assuming Canada does the revolution first, how will you as your party react to that?
We'll bring it over here. We're going to have it spill. We'll spread it over here as soon as possible. We'll do whatever it takes.
And how would you react to the inevitable U.S. counter-revolution to an invasion, a revolution in Canada?
I can't tell you right now because it would be illegal.
That's actually an encouraging thing to hear. And I don't need to hear any more than that. But I do would like to ask the essential question about, I think one of my colleagues had said that you had actually said something favorable about the Western expansion. Now, are you just, to be clear, saying that we have to accept America as it is now and accept the history as it is now and work on the basis of that? Or do you actually have positive views about how America was created in that way and how the Western expansion actually occurred? And how the
what do you mean positive? You know, I mean, how can anything be positive?
I don't know. I was just told.
Let's say I was a time traveler, and I was in power, and I'm here in the United States, and there's these, and we haven't yet expanded west, right? Give me a second. So let's say we're in that position. Sorry, I was thanking someone for 25. Here's what I would do. I would immediately, because we are now, assuming this is a socialist republic, which it would be if I was in power, because how else would I come to power unless on the back of a victorious proletarian revolution? I would basically, I would say, of course, it's an aspiration for the United Republic to be from sea to shining sea. The Bolsheviks had the same aspiration for the whole Russian Empire. But, we have to work on a basis of national self-determination with these various tribes. So let's begin, exchanges and dialogue and collaboration and, hopefully work to build some kind of framework where instead of an expansion of people going westward and displacing the people that already live there, there could be a cooperative development, and the tribes that were out west could hopefully integrate. And if they don't integrate, that's fine. We respect national self-determination. But let's say the old powers of old Europe, who had designs, by the way, to do this, came and started using these territories as a launching pad. Then, of course, It'd be like the same thing that happened when the Germans wanted to use the Baltic countries against the Soviet Union. But it would be a civilization state framework. What happened under capitalism, I would, of course, not want to repeat. It would be on a socialistic, a communistic basis, which is much more civilized. It's much more, how should I put it? Much more humanist, not humanitarian, humanist, right? Pro-human. But as such, history is history and it cannot be reversed. So here we are. Capitalism's history is ugly. It's ugliness, it's greed. It's all the most, what Engels said, the most base human instincts unleashed. Everything. Avarice, greed, envy, cannibalism. And, of course, the settlement west was a hideous I mean, look, everything is a double-edged sword in ways. Nothing is one-sided. But what's certain is that the ugly side is a matter of historical fact. They went and they massacred and killed, the Indians. They displaced them. They used all kinds of But, keep something in mind, because you'll learn about this if you learn about the history of oil prospecting, too. The same dog-eat-dog ruthlessness of capitalism, it wasn't exclusively used against the Indians. Even settlers who settled and had homes, God forbid they find out you're sitting on some black gold, they'll use all kinds of dirty tricks to root you out. And that's capitalism. That's what it is. It's stealing, lying, thievery. That's what it is. This is the history of capitalism. What I don't like is I don't like this idea of that all American workers today are settlers and whatever. I mean, I think that's nonsense. But that's my view.
Okay. So I think there's a little bit more nuance than what is probably spread about the party then, in that case.
Brother, listen.
Yes.
What's said about our party, look, where to begin? Just about everything we're famous for, at least within the American leftist circles, it's not nuance. It's not, no. It's black and white. It's lies. It's all lies. Every single thing is a lie. There's not one thing we're infamous for among American leftists that isn't verifiably and objectively a lie. And that should get people thinking. Because who the fuck else, when they say Nick Fuentes is a Nazi, for example, it's like, well, I mean, he does praise Hitler. He does believe in racial, supremacism, that some people are inferior. So it's not too far off. When they say he's anti-Semitic, again, it's not extremely far off, right? But who gets attacked like we get attacked, where every single thing is a fucking lie? Every single thing. It's insane. And that's why, brother, I've had to do a lot of meditation. I've had to do a lot to think about God. I've had to do a lot to get in touch with the wisdoms of our shared religion, actually.
Yeah,
because I think you're from the because listen, you'll lose your mind. Step into my shoes and see if you won't go crazy in a matter of days. Lose your mind completely. How can you live in a world where every single thing that's said about you and your cause is a lie? Who would believe that? What normal, sane person would believe that everything is a lie? They're like, well, no, of course, everything's nuanced. There has to be grains of truth. There's no grain of truth. There's no grain of truth. Everything they have said about us is a lie. I mean, again, it's just a matter of where to begin. It's not a matter of, you know, which one. It's a matter of where to begin, because there are so many, they say. There's so many, they say. You know, it's tragic.
Yeah. Um, yeah. To be fair, as a Shia, we know that our religion is lied about as well, and I can definitely empathize with that, and empathize with being lied about constantly. So like I came here and I didn't want to like I made my evaluations based on what I've been hearing or what I've understood. But I want to also say, in fairness, that you understand that a religion, even when the imams are speaking to enemies, they do not violate the laws of God. Even in war, they do not violate the laws of God. So that is something I think should also be considered. That
No, I mean, I have, brother,
the
and
law has to do
it's
this as
it's
well.
difficult for me because I'm not even sure I'm allowed to say this, but let's just say this, all right? The Muqawima and their fight with the Zionist entity is following the rules, as you said, right? But let me ask a question. In the days of the Prophet, did they have missiles? Did they have impersonal weapons that just wipe out people indiscriminately? No, they had swords. So, of course, when you're talking about swords, it makes sense. Of course, yeah, don't go harm innocent people. Of course. But in an age of nuclear weapons, what are the rules? You
Well,
need.
the age of nuclear weapons is you need to have a nuclear weapon for deterrence, but that's actually a different question. That's in terms of Islamic fiqh and the rules of war of today. Ali actually said something wisdom about that would apply today. That you you have to throw a rock back at the same place that it came to you. So,
Yeah,
in terms of rules of war and retaliation, um, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa actually did a preemptive war, a preemptive strike
that's what we're
on
doing against them today.
Badr. Yeah, so like war, it does have its sort of nuances. I don't think that um, we can say that the Shia are not thinking about these things as well and understanding these things with certain subtlety. But I think that we do in general do have to remember that we do have to follow certain structures. We do have to have basic principles, and we cannot alienate people with uh, inflammatory rhetoric that I think doesn't really help um, get the message across, or doesn't really gather your forces to be able to go against the enemy. In my personal view, and that's just
Yeah, I see
me
where you're
being
coming
a Shia.
from. One of the things I've been working on is my temper, my anger, and the religion has helped me with respect to that. But I don't see myself as a holy man. I don't. I think I'm a very imperfect person. I have no expectations as far as the afterlife. I'm going to be weighed just like everyone else, and I'll accept whatever judgment comes my way. But I just know what I have to do here on Earth, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, well, if you're sincere, I do appreciate that. I was a little worried about some of the rhetoric that I was seeing earlier from I know some of your colleagues. I think there was one comment I think from Jackson Hinkle who had actually said, and he's a member of the party, right? He's a member of the ACP.
Yes.
Yes, he is a member of the ACP. I think he had said something about how um, white people are the most persecuted group of all of the people of America, and I think that was kind of that was one quote that I'd seen like on a tweet somewhere, and I was
I
hoping
think
that it
that
was
obviously when it comes to, um, living conditions and the history of fighting with the state and state persecution, obviously not true. But I think what he was talking about was when it comes to the institutions of civil society today, where there are discriminatory practices that seem to be tolerated against people just because they are, they're white. So if you're white, you have to sit down and you can't speak. Let's say you're even working for like a corporation, Disney or something. You're going to college and you have to, bow your head down or something. So I just think it's just things like that he was talking about. Wait, are you talking about the thing where he said white people were the most persecuted, right?
I think something like that. There was some sort of tweet where I
It's like
kind of visibly
cis white
remember it.
men are
Yeah,
more
look,
oppressed than anyone or some shit.
you need to
Which,
put it in context. He's talking about when it comes to the corporate media and institutions. And the fact is there is an open policy of discrimination. But on the other hand, of course, obviously white people don't have it the worst, materially or objectively, but I don't think he was talking about that. I think he was talking about something very specific. Like if you're a white man, this is why, because if you're a white man, there's a perception that means you're automatically privileged. And therefore, well, you already have it all, so who cares about you? You don't have to be treated with any kind of decency or respect in these institutions. But wait a minute. Here's the issue. There's a class divide among white men. So who does this discrimination benefit? It benefits the white men who are in fact privileged because they're of the bourgeoisie. Of course, those people don't care about this stuff because they're already fine. They have it. They've made it. But what about a guy from Oklahoma or from Iowa, where Eddie's from, who's trying to get into university and he's trying to turn his life around and he's pulling himself up from a life of hardship and labor and he wants to be the first person in his family. Oh, fuck him. He's privileged. He's a white male. So you see, it's class warfare. It's a certain segment of the white men, the ruling class, keeping the majority of the white men who are working class down. And that's always a tactic of monopolists. Monopolists always attack themselves. Why do they always attack themselves? Why does Jeff Bezos and why do people all the way at the top like Warren Buffett critique capitalism? It's not because they're against capitalism. They're against competition. They've already made it to the top. What do they have to give a shit about capitalism? So you see, it's the same thing when it comes to this stuff.
And to Haz's point, obviously, black people have faced more repression from the state in American history than white people. This is obvious. And even today, the number one way to tell if somebody will be shot by police is to look at their income status. Class is the number one divider. Most police violence is against poor people, but then, there's also a racial element where black people are more likely to be targeted by police. But what Jackson's referring to is exactly what Haz said, where when I got a job as a wrestling coach at a university, and they make every single employee do this, you have to sign a diversity statement where you pledge to basically privilege any student who isn't white. And as a wrestling coach, a big part of my job was recruiting people to the university. And, they make every employee say that we will privilege non-whites over whites. And this is, backwards and doesn't help anything in my opinion. I think that's the kind of thing that Jackson was criticizing in that tweet, even if it wasn't the most tactful. And I know he tweeted that years ago too, but it's not anything recent. But that's the kind of thing that he was pushing back against, which I think is absolutely fair.
I mean, what right does Harry Season have to represent white males? This Democrat, liberal, bourgeois vermin saying, on behalf of all white males, we're sorry. What? On behalf of all the working class white males who are in debt, who are going home every single day after working for 12 hours, barely able to feed their kids, and they have to bow just like Harry Season. Well, it might be easy for Harry Season to bow his head, but this country, white, black, brown, it doesn't matter. The great majority of this country are struggling to put food on the table and pay their bills. And that's just a fact. And they don't have time for this nonsense, this pettiness. Everyone's being screwed over just the same. You go to a factory floor, you'll see white, you'll see black, you'll see brown, you'll see whatever, and they're all getting screwed just the same way. And then have someone come and say, no, this white guy, this black, whatever. I mean, you know, everybody's the same on the shop floor, though. Everybody's the same day in and day out. Now, are there disparities between communities? Sure, but how is any kind of injustice in this country going to be addressed when people are divided?
Yeah, there should be a uniting line, but I think all of the problems have to be identified first. So let's go back to that example that you had, factory floor, where you say basically everybody's the same. That is probably the case until maybe there's a little bit of treatment by the manager against maybe the brown guy or the black guy, as opposed to the white guy.
Yeah, it's a classic tactic.
Tries to go to HR, tries to go to HR, it gets an issue. Now, if they're together and they're in the union, then the union can protect them. Or if they do have some solidarity before the union starts, then all of them can protect them. But if you institutionalize, which I think the American media is kind of guilty of, you institutionalize stereotypes, institutionalize racial ideology, racial supremacy, or whatever, you'll find maybe these other people will believe whatever excuse the manager comes up with for criticizing this person for the discriminatory treatment, and nothing gets done. People don't get united, and people don't deal with that underlying issue. My hope is that the party understands that.
Well, look, I could make it more simple. If management is favoring a white guy over a black guy, then everybody who's fighting for labor should say it's about labor. And if it's the white guy who wants to divide on the basis of race, be it on his head. But it's about labor. It's about the worker. It's not black people who are dividing the workers in that case. It's the white ones. But there's no need to say the problem is the whites, because then you're sending a message to all the other white co-workers who may actually be disposed to join the general cause of labor. So it's about labor, simple as that. I mean, the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sorry, it's a very, very horrible way of pronouncing that. But the Prophet, I'm very whitewashed, as you can tell. But the Prophet didn't reify the divisions in his ranks. If the enemy was trying to exploit tribal divisions, the Prophet didn't say, "Oh, we need to institutionalize these divisions. We need to, no." He said, "We are united. We are the Muslims. Here we are. If they want to divide, let it be on their head. We're not going to recognize their division. We're not going to recognize their justification."
That's the beauty of the religion is you're a Shia Muslim, you're a brother, and there's an entire chapter in Al-Kafi on racism. And that's kind of the beauty of it. That's kind of the beauty of Islam.
Look, in Islam, the tribes had inequalities. Some tribes were wealthier than the others. Some tribes were more privileged than the others. Of course, the enemy took advantage of these divisions. But never did our Prophet entertain any of them. If people wanted to take the bait and divide, be it on their head. But the Muslims would not be divided. We're going to be unified, is what he said. and it was like they stand like stone. They're unfazed, and they refuse to recognize or entertain any justification for the division. And I see it the same way for the cause of the working class.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, that gives me a lot of more hope that you're the Secretary General of the party, and you're articulating yourself a lot better. I think that's good. Earlier, I think if you remember me before, I had a name before, Christian, and we had a debate before, and we had a little bit of a conversation on
What
your
you said,
Twitch channel.
Christian?
Yeah, my name was Christian Shigeru. I was a member of the Communist Party of Canada. I was working under that party, trying to
I
deal with
don't
the issues, running on that
remember.
party line.
I don't
Oh, you don't
remember.
remember?
I don't remember at all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, anyways, yeah, you've definitely changed your rhetoric from then. I think you've been reading a lot. You've been understanding things, and like I've liked the growth, and I've liked your position as a member. I think it's a good and re-encouraging sign for ACP. Um, and yeah, I wish you the best, brother, and I wish you the best, party members, and I wish the best for the working class of
All
America.
right. Well, I appreciate that.
All right.
How many people are left?
We got 6.
6. I can't even see any of them. What about any libtards, basically?
Looks like a guy. It looks like at least one leftist. Oh, yeah, at least one. You
Yeah,
want to do one more?
yeah. That'll be our last one then, I guess.
Cool.
I can't. Okay, Pancho.
Pancho Villa, I think.
All right. State your business.
Hey, I was just wondering. I was just wondering, in the case that the ACP were to come to power, what would happen to territories like Puerto Rico or Samoa or Guam or any other overseas territories?
Full independence for Puerto Rico.
The American Republic that we are fighting for does not have colonies, doesn't have territories. It's one continuous landmass, one American Republic. All U.S. troops would be evacuated from those places, and they would be given to. Well, they don't need to be given to anyone. We're just going to pack up and leave.
I have a personal affiliation or a
Uh,
personal affection for Puerto Rico. It's the only foreign country. I mean, you don't even have to get a passport to be there, but I do consider it a foreign country that I've been to. And watching the lack of response from the U.S. government after the hurricane was like a huge moment for me in learning, what the American state is all about and what the colonization of Puerto Rico is all about. And so, and everybody in the party
With respect to Hawaii, we don't have a statement on that, and I don't think we've come to a decision because of it's a knowledge issue. We don't know what's going on the ground in Hawaii. We don't know about the prospect of independence, if there's a movement for that already. We don't know. We don't know. And we don't have a chapter in Hawaii. So I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it would be a referendum of some kind. I don't know.
yeah, thanks for answering that question. Can't really think of much else to ask. Honestly, I'm very pleased by the answer you gave, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, bro.
Sure, you too.
You want to do one more? Try and find a hater.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's go.
Bring
This
up
person's
Abdul. I can't see him.
Abdul.
You can see him. Bring him as well.
Yeah. Who? Abdul and someone else, or just Abdul?
Him and someone else, because I think he's going to be quick.
Okay. He's
All right,
still
Anne, you can go
connected.
first because Abdul's taking too long.
Okay, cool. So the ideals of communism, like I read them when I was 17. I read Marx when I was 17. I'm 62, just so you know. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great idea in theory.
It's
The
even better in practice.
the problem is you're dealing with sinful human beings who have like greed issues, and I don't know how you could possibly control that.
That's
You
why
know,
we shouldn't.
I'm not.
That's why we shouldn't have a system that incentivizes people to be greedy, and we should have a system that can rein in greed. But we're just looking for left wingers. Sorry, Ian. Where'd Abdul go?
I think I'd say, even if human nature is completely corrupt and bad, there's something about, I don't know, I don't want to sound too abstract, but there's something about language itself that is in a way good. And Boris Groys talks about this in the Communist Postscript, and it's like, as long as evil can always be held to account by the courage of the word and of language, as long as
Right.
corruption and injustice cannot occur in silence and in the shadows, but is wherever it impacts people, wherever it impacts human beings, it's raised to the status of a controversy, right?
Right. And I mean, this might be like a stupid leftist argument or whatever, but I really, people in your daily life, maybe I'm wrong or maybe other people don't feel this way, but they act very collectively, at least here in the Midwest. Like, I don't run into people that are inherently selfish. They're, willing to do things for you for free, help you move for free, just,
No, I mean
because they
that's
want your friendship in return. I mean, I think that's the vast majority of society, and we've allowed, the most ruthless, and non-cooperative and selfish people to rule us. But I mean, isn't that what communism's all about? Is fucking kicking those people out of power?
yeah, it's
Um,
absolute. And in the Soviet Union, they had an entire category of people called hooligans, and they would just be under the boot of society.
right.
And those
Hello,
fucking
can you hear
people
me?
that just can't control themselves are just, yeah, Abdul, what's all that shit you're talking? What's
Because you
going
were
on?
scared.
What's going
I've,
on?
I've,
Now it's time.
I've,
Now it's time. Now it's time
I've
to
requested.
Go.
step up to the task, and now it's
Yeah,
time
it, it
to
seemed
stand
to
on
me.
all
It
that
seemed to
shit
me
you've been.
that you were scared of me the past few times because I was
You
requesting.
ain't CJ from GTA San Andreas. Sit down, Abdul. What's going on? You ain't CJ.
So my question is like your party and your party line has a inclination towards authoritarianism, and you pretty much follow like authoritarian figures. Your friend Jackson Hinkle famously is a Putin stooge, and the guy, the host Eddie, is on a record saying that he upholds Stalin.
Base.
And
Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
and you don't adopt a, I guess, a Chinese
All right. You don't need to prove
view of
it. I'll
things.
save you time. Yeah, we're authoritarians. What's next?
What's next? That you're never going to be successful, and you
Why
and
not?
you uphold
Why
and you
not?
uphold. Why not? You've seen what happened with Stalin. Stalin was a failure.
So, can you name me a single non-authoritarian state that's ever existed ever? Wait, look at the
I
history of civilization from the beginning. I'm literally writing a book about it, by the way. The very first states in the Bronze Age. You don't think they were authoritarian? They came with axes from the Caucasus, and they came to Anatolia, and any and all opposition, they butchered them. And these
Yeah, a
kings, they
couple
became
thousand years
so
ago.
great and powerful, they were pharaohs. And they built the damn pyramids. They built huge palaces and huge irrigation and canal systems. If a single person raised their hand against the great authority of the state, that hand would be chopped off, and that would be a mercy, because 99% of the time it's their head that would go. To rise, to have the arrogance to
that
rise
political
against
power
the
comes
authority
with
and
the
the
bearer of a
power of a
gun. We
civilization.
agree.
All states in history were great and grand, sublime authorities. So yes, we're authoritarian.
I don't understand this babble like you're in the fucking
Why the fuck are you talking
Mongol.
about Babel? Abdul, where are you from?
It doesn't matter.
Where are you from?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter. Where are you
Why?
from?
Why doesn't?
It's kind of like you're from My Little Pony land, where they don't have any authorities or
Yeah,
anything.
I've heard how you speak Arabic. We're not through the same lens. You're whitewashed.
Where are you from?
It doesn't matter.
I'm okay. Pretend I'm white. Where are you from?
Why do you want me to tell?
Because you're probably from fucking Saudi Arabia, where MBS is literally the supreme dictator. So what are you gonna do about it? You can't do shit, because you can't even talk about it without them coming to your house and dragging your ass to jail.
I can talk about it. I don't know
You
much
can't
about
talk
it.
about a damn thing, all right? So stop talking about authoritarianism. We're a failure because we support authoritarianism. But the
You
country
uphold Stalin. Stalin was a failure, Haz.
The country,
Stalin was a failure.
the country that you live in is proof that authoritarianism is inevitable and is just the norm.
And what country is that?
I don't know, some Saudi Arabia, Gulf country. Where the hell you from? You from Saudi Arabia? MBS. MBS.
Let's say I'm from Saudi Arabia.
You are. MBS gonna come. He's gonna kick down your door with a golden AK if you ever talk shit about.
And guess who's arming him? Your country.
No, his own oil is.
No.
He's got the oil.
He's controlled.
And if America didn't, you don't think Russia will sell him weapons? He'll buy weapons from whoever he has to get it from.
Of course not.
And guess what? All right.
Iran.
Let's look at history. Before the Saudi family, who was up there running the business up there?
The Ottomans.
The Ottomans. And if you looked at an Ottoman in the bad way, you looked at him the wrong way, he'll come with a stick and beat you up.
And where are the Ottomans now?
Sure. States come and go, but every single one was authoritarian.
You love failures, Haz.
Just because history exists doesn't mean civilization itself is failure. Just because civilization changes doesn't mean it's failure. Dumb.
But you can take wisdom from that, Haz. You can take wisdom that.
Hey, you need to be muted because you don't know how to control yourself. Dumb. That's your new name. Calling Stalin a failure. Yeah, it's true that no state will live forever. It always has to change. It always has to. Even Mao had the Cultural Revolution. He overthrew a lot of these. He changed the Chinese state during his rule, during his reign. But here's the thing. The wisdom isn't that we're living in My Little Pony land, libertarian land, where what? It's not authoritarian. There's no such thing. There's always authority. There's always authoritarianism. It doesn't matter what form it takes. What do you think? Everyone's going to sit in a Saudi Arabian commune and they're going to be hippies in Saudi Arabia in the desert and they're all going to vote on what kind of sand they're going to be stepping on today? They're going to vote on who gets to ride the camels across the desert? Get out of here with this nonsense. Talking this nonsense. Go ahead, Abdul.
You understand the issues with the cult of personality that you're raising in your party. You call yourself self-acclaimed the Khan, the Ghoul, the chairman. You're the general. You speak like a
Hey, I'm going to go ahead and mute you there because I call myself the chairman in the party because that's what I am in the party. All that other stuff, that's infrared. All right. It's totally different. All right, that's the guerrillas. That's totally that's informal. That's the that's the motorcycle gang. All right, we don't talk about that. I'm talking about the party. Is my formal title as the chairman, executive chairman. By the way, I asked them. I said, "Yo, should it be chief? Because it's like a native. We're American. It's like the Indian chiefs." And they looked at me. They said, "Get out of hell no! What are you talking about?" I said, "All right." So if it was up to me, it would have been something chief. So it sounds more American. But
Jackson said that would have been cultural appropriation, so he couldn't do it.
yeah. But that was my idea, and they shot it down. And so chairman is like
I
a
highly
corporation.
doubt there is democracy inside.
Who cares about chairman? That's a boring corporate title. I thought chief would have been a fun title because it's like the Indian chiefs, And but we did chairman. It's very professional. It's bureaucratic. We could have done chef, high chef, because I'm always cooking. But we settled on one that's very professional. So tell me what the issue is.
Your party doesn't accept political discourse that is opposite, that is contrary to what you believe.
That's not true. That's not true at all.
No, it is true. You live in a
party. You can't
echo
even
chamber.
you live in Saudi Arabia. You can't even join our party.
I don't live in Saudi Arabia.
Y'all are too busy riding camels and shit over. You can't join our party. What are you doing?
Yeah, of course. Pivot to humor, Kai. Haz.
All right, it ain't Saudi Arabia, but it's Kuwait. You got me.
Yeah, let's say I'm from Kuwait. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does matter. Because what are you talking about with authoritarianism? You're living in a damn most authoritarian states in the world, Kuwait.
And it's a puppet of your country.
Is that my fault?
That's why we're trying to overthrow the government.
How's that my
fault? That's why we're trying to seize authority from them.
Instead of overthrowing the Kuwaiti monarchy.
You can't overthrow the government. Armies overthrow governments.
Saddam tried.
Yeah, because you love failures. You
I
keep
didn't say
bringing
I
up
love
names
him.
that
I didn't say I
failed.
love him. All right, so do you support Iran?
Of course.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Right. Okay.
Yeah, because you have a preconceived notion in your head that I'm some like prince that living in Saudi Arabia. Because
listen. We're trying our best. We're trying our best to deal with our own government. All right. What do you want us to do? We're trying our best. What can I do besides what I'm doing now? What can I do to change my government more than what I'm doing now? Nothing. I'm already doing. That's why they're after me. By the way, that's why they're stopping us at airports every time now, and they're harassing the shit out of us.
Because you are posing too much of a, I wouldn't say a threat because you're harmless. You can't do anything, but you're posing too much of a security risk through the language.
So that's how badly we're fighting our own government. Isn't that crazy?
Who's gonna win out, Haz? You're not gonna win out. The DSA is gonna win out. These sort of people will win out.
Well, the DSA has had over a decade to win anything, and all they've done is get they jazz hands. They've won jazz hands. They didn't win a damn thing.
Point of privilege.
Well, just look at the numbers. Look at the numbers and look at
look at my followers. You click a button, you follow me on Twitter. I have more followers than DSA because you click one button and now you're my follower on X. That's the same thing as joining DSA.
That's why you brigade them every time you tweet.
DSA
so they can
has 90,000 members. Haz al-Din has an army of 100,000 members because all you have to do to join Haz al-Din's personality cult, you just follow me on X. And all you have to do to join the DSA to become a member is you go on their website and you click a button. I don't even charge my soldiers to be part of my organization, but they charge theirs, Netflix subscription. Or Hulu. It's Hulu, because Hulu is the more woke one.
Last time I heard, you're not running a popular party. And you said it.
So I have to, hold on. I got to. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, DSA. You're saying we're not popular. No, we probably
No,
have.
I'm not saying popular. I'm saying popular in terms of you said that you have a party in the Leninist form, and you said that every member will be vetted. You will not
Yeah.
accept anyone,
Yeah.
and you said they will have to go down to the masses, go down to the
That's what they're
working class.
doing. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
I'm not
Every
saying
day.
that they're perfect, but you're not either.
DSA. Look, DSA's active membership. They have probably like 3-4 times more than us. To be realistic, like people that are putting in the work, going to all the meetings. Yeah, they have more, but they've been around for like a decade. Well, they've been around for decades.
And they had the Bernie campaign to
We've
boost
been
them.
around for 4 months, dude. Been around for 4 months. Chill. It's been 4 months.
I don't see growth.
Well, that's just objectively wrong.
Because
I
you're
don't
not
see room
looking.
for growth
Adding
either.
hundreds of members every month.
Because you're not looking. Because you live in Qatar. All right, that's why.
Yeah, one more country. How about that? It
All right, just
was
tell us
MBS,
what country you're
UAE.
from. Tell us what country you're from.
I'm a cosmopolitan.
No, the
I don't live in
CJ,
a country.
the GTA San Andreas CJ profile picture, 100%. You're some kind of Gulf something.
Haz, look at the picture. It's a picture of the Lenin mausoleum.
Of the what?
Of the Lenin mausoleum.
No, I'm looking in
Moscow.
Discord. I'm talking about Discord. Oh, that's
That
not even
doesn't matter.
CJ. That's Quandale Dingle.
Yeah, you don't
That's
know
not
your
even
memes.
CJ. What the hell? You got Quandale Dingle as your profile picture. What the hell is going on?
Haz, political power comes to the barrel of a gun, and your party is famously a not
Grew
a
up
popular
in
party.
Germany and moved to Russia. What the hell? You live in Russia?
I didn't say that.
Bro, with this accent you have, Iraqi, 100% Iraqi. 100%
Of course you would think
Iraqi.
that. Of course you would think that. Because you're whitewashed.
100%.
You know that Russia has over 190 ethnicities, right? Right, Haz?
And ain't none of them Arabs.
Says
When
who?
I go to Russia, I'm the only Arab there.
Do you think Abdul is an Arab name?
You could be Kurdish. I don't know what's going on.
There's no Kurds in Russia.
Bro, you are not from Russia. All right? Stop LARPing, bro. I can detect it from your accent. You ain't you ain't like what? You're Chechen. You're one of them Muslim minorities in Russia. Get the hell out of here, bro. Get the hell out of here, bro. Where you from? Tell me where you from.
It doesn't matter, Hans.
Bro, the only Arabs. Oh, he's Turkish.
I'm not Arab.
You're Turkish?
I didn't say anything about my ethnicity.
How this ain't a Turkish accent. What's going on? He's got he's got Kurdish. Kurdish, I could believe. This ain't a Turkish accent. All right, so you're Kurdish. Admit it.
Yes, I am Kurdish.
There we go. There we go.
And your famous high bailiff fought alongside the Americans, the American-backed Turkish army, which you and
you're talking
under the log.
You're talking about Vatan. You're talking about Vatan.
I'm talking about the high bailiff, the position that has no
you're
control,
talking about
no
Vatan.
power.
You got a problem with Vatan. Right?
I'm talking about Christopher Halali.
Yeah, Halali was what? Who was he? The Turkish army? What you talking about?
No, the Kurdish separatists.
Oh, yeah, in the beginning, but then he switched sides to Assad.
So your position, the ACP position, is for Kurdish independence?
No, he started fighting on the side of the pro-Assad people.
Oh, so you uphold Assad too, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Why did I think he's Saudi? I only thought he's Saudi because I saw a meme from Saudi Arabia that had CJ from San Andreas. That's literally the only.
It is not CJ.
But it's not CJ. It's Quandale Dingle. But why isn't it Turkish Quandale Dingle if you're from Turkey?
Well, look at the nose. Isn't that a Turkish nose?
No, that's just Quandale Dingle.
with a large nose.
This is craziness. This is insanity. So, I mean, I'm cool with the Kurds. I mean, so you're Kurdish from Turkey who went to Germany and then went to Russia.
I've never been to Germany. Actually, I have, but I'm not in Germany.
So you're from Turkey and you just went to Russia.
But I'm not gonna disclose my location. But
Bro, what you telling me? The CIA what? The CIA is after you?
no, I just don't want to disclose my location because your party is known for doxing people.
Bro, we ain't doxing nobody who lives in Russia, all right? What are we gonna do in Russia? Russia's
Yeah, you will just have Jackson with his connections.
We're not famous for doxing him. I'm just saying, it's like you know what you are, bro? You're like that TikTok. Y'all ever seen that TikTok where they're like some dude is trying to act hard, like he's a thug. He's walking in the college class and he's like looking around. He's like acting sketchy and shit. He's trying to act like he's from the streets, but he's not. That's what you sound like. That's what you look like right
Yeah,
now. You look like you're moving.
Keep thinking of an image of in your head of me.
I'm moving low key, man. I can't let the ops figure out my next step, man. Bro, what ops? Ain't nobody care about what you're doing in Russia. Making snowmen.
Of course. You will have Jackson Hinkle, your friend, who is a obviously paid agent. Just look up the numbers and get me deported. I don't want to do that.
Bro, ain't nobody's gonna get you deported from Russia. What are you talking about, bro?
Haz, why do you keep not taking my criticism at face value and just stop talking about my ethnicity, my
What is your
nose,
criticism? What is your? Because it doesn't make any sense.
You
You're
uphold
from planet
Stalin.
Mars.
You uphold Stalin, and Stalin was a failure. That's one thing. You don't even have the Chinese position about Mao, where
Bro,
like it's
if you
70-30.
live in Moscow, you're using Stalin's metro every single time. Put some respect on Stalin's name. You've seen the Moscow metro. He built that.
It was built by the Red Army.
No, it was built by Stalin. Don't be picky. Don't be picking and choosing.
No.
That was built by Stalin. Ain't failure. We talking about failure. Stalin created that entire country you live in. The whole country that you live in. Everything was made by Stalin.
See, this is the cult of personality that you're propagating in your party. And this is the problem. But Stalin failed. After
the only
Stalin
thing
died,
I disagree with, there is something I disagree. All right, I'll criticize Stalin and break from the cult of personality. The only thing I disagree with Stalin about,
he didn't kill enough.
No, that the cult of personality was actually good.
Wow.
I actually think it was great. He didn't like it, but I think it was great.
He didn't like it. He
didn't like it.
He
criticized it all the time.
Yeah, I like. He established it. Doesn't matter what he did.
You're me having a cult of personality. Listen, in the age of the internet, there's no cult of personality unless you're an older like Trump or something. I'm literally 28 years old. My cult of personality is a fucking meme. All right. It's literally a meme. Now, do people respect me? Of course they respect me because they know, I'm about it and I believe it and whatever. But like people, it's not like, it's not like a literal cult,
Well, you've heard that criticism for many years, I think, that you're running a cult, and there's merit to that criticism.
Yeah, but the only difference is like I don't really care. Like I don't control all. All right, listen, it's a cult where I give my guerrillas orders for helping boost my posts and my writings and my stuff. But I don't really care what they do outside of that. It's not like I'm like trying to organize, their lives for them. I don't go do whatever you want.
Of course you're trying. You have a party program for fitness that your friend Eddie.
Yeah, and let me insert here. The reason it might seem like a cult, the reason why it might seem like our followers, love us so much is because we are offering them purpose, and we are offering them something constructive, and we are telling them to better themselves and improve their lives. And they live in a society, a capitalist society, that isolates them from each other, that makes them lonely, that has induced America with large rates of depression, led to all these fucking mass shootings. All kids want to do is play video games and consume and order Uber Eats and smoke pot and watch porn. And we're telling them, no, fuck that. You can be more than that. You can be better than that. Humanity can do better than that. And yeah, that inspires a lot of people, and that, you know, has a lot of people who are ready to fight for something and dedicate their lives to something, because we live in a society that's completely devoid of purpose. And it's not being in a cult to give people purpose. That's exactly what we need. That's exactly what
Look, we're
we're
not a
fucking
cult.
stripped of in this neoliberal hellhole.
We're not a cult. All that we do is that if people eat seed oils, Darg shows up at their house and destroys their pantry, and, you know, a little bit of waterboarding, and that's it.
Haz, you will never get political power, Haz.
Why
Never.
not? Why not?
Because armies win wars. Armies take political power.
That's what we're building. You're complaining about it. We're
You're not
building
building
an
an
army.
That's
army.
what we have. Armies train. Armies have physical fitness
You think,
programs.
what do you think
Armies
armies
know how to
do?
follow
You will
orders
never
from their
win.
leadership.
You
And
will
you
never
call
beat
it
out the
cultish.
far
You're just
right.
coping. You're just retarded.
They're
You will
not
never beat the
organized.
far right.
They don't have collectivism. We have collectivism. You know why? Because the far right, they take everything personally. They think it's all about the individual. See, look, when far right personalities go viral, they think, "Oh, I'm so special." You think Haz thinks he's special? You think Haz is sitting here thinking that I'm the chosen one? I'm some random dude from Michigan. All right? It's about the message. That's all it's always. It's just the message. That's it. It's a message in the bottle.
I will see. We'll see. Good luck. I am skeptical. I will remain skeptical. And we'll see. We'll see if you're able to take.
Have I ever attributed the success of my platform, Infrared, or the party for that matter, to something special inside of me? It's always been a science. I learned a lot of theory in silence, and I put it into practice, and it turned out to work.
Yep.
And it's
Yeah, your application of theory is questionable as well, but we're not going to talk about it. Your application of theory.
Well,
you know what's interesting about that
is it worked.
We kind of.
How do you think Infrared went viral? You think Infrared went viral because I'm so special? What do you think it is? Infrared was viral because I understand information theory. I understand mass psychology, all these things, all these kind of things. I knew exactly what I needed to do to become famous. I trolled.
You're not famous. You're infamous.
Yeah. Well, I'm something. I'm something, but not nothing.
Of course, you chase the clout. You chase the clout, and this is self-admitted by.
And I did it through
science.
And I did it through science.
Which science? There's 100% failure rate of every Leninist revolution. I'm not living in communism now.
Well, you will be. Well, yeah, you will be soon. You're in Russia.
Yeah, because no,
you're in Russia. Chill. You're chilling.
There's no communist
worry
movement.
About us. You're already in Russia.
There's no thriving communist movement in Russia. There is a controlled opposition.
There's KPRF and there's other very based.
Opposition. Based?
Very, very other very.
And there's other very based people. Yeah, they are based.
Doing very good.
Yeah, of course you would think that. You probably have ties with them.
We do have ties.
KPRF, the famously controlled opposition movement, which capitulated in the 90s and gave out the vote to Putin.
This is just kind of gibber, look.
No, this is verifiable. This is verifiable. Look at the sources.
This is gibber.
This is verifiable.
You don't know
The
how.
KPRF won the election.
Listen, Russia is a complicated country. Nobody's controlled in that country. They don't control anyone. Are you kidding? You think they're controlled? It's nonsense. That's not how it works.
Or it's controlled by Putin.
Just because
Except
KPRF
puppets like Navalny.
who are working for America to destroy their country doesn't mean they're controlled. All right.
I suggest you read up on it. You look at who they elected for the presidential election, and you will see that they're controlled. The last guy famously said, "Hey, I'm not gonna win, but Putin is the right guy." This is the KPRF presidential election member, the guy they elected for the campaign. He said, "I'm not winning."
I
Just elect
understand because
Putin.
Russia's not a fucking
That's just
liberal
reality.
democracy. We know it's not a liberal democracy, and so it works differently over there. I don't know
Of
what
course,
to tell
it's
you.
a dictatorship, and you uphold that dictator.
But I'll tell you this: the KPRF and other forces, right? I'm not going to go into detail, but they're building strong bases in society of leadership and organization and whatever. And look, political change will come to Russia one day. It's not going to come in the form of a fucking election. I agree. I mean, it's not a liberal democracy, but it'll come. It won't necessarily be like a Bolshevik revolution, but it'll just be maybe instability will come and someone needs to fill the vacuum, just kind of things like that. And the communists have they have a good chance in Russia. They have a good chance to build up a strong political force that could fill the vacuum of when some kind of instability comes or anything. So it's like you just don't understand how Russian politics works, and even
You're
Russians,
not teaching me about Russian politics.
even
Oz.
Russians themselves don't understand.
Just look at the approval rating of the KPRF. Just look at it.
They're the second largest party.
Yeah, 3% the last election. 3%.
Yeah, because it's a mobile war.
They endorsed Putin. They said they supported Putin
Of
because
course they would endorse Putin. Of course they would, because they're controlled.
Because they weren't going to win anyways because Putin's support
Bro,
is super high
Abdul,
because of the SMO.
you're literally all right. So you're in Russia right now. You're building a snowman. You're walking around. You're just chilling in Russia. You're on Discord Spaces with a VPN, and you're complaining about Putin. You know what that is? Jobless activity. That's jobless.
Yeah, I guess
inside Russia.
I guess the Third International and the communist movement prior to the October Revolution was just jobless people.
Bro,
they didn't want to keep
stop talking about the
pain.
October. You're literally in the Moscow metro right now, squatting while everyone's passing you by, walking by you. You're squatting in the corner with your phone held up to your mouth with a VPN. You're on the fucking Twitter Spaces, and you out here just gibbering and jabbering about Putin. And what's going on here? You're literally the Russian Quandale Dingle. You're literally just sitting and squatting up. Your hand, you're rubbing your hands together. You're cold. You can, as you're talking, there's
You're not serious, Haz.
There's ice coming out your breath. What you doing, bro?
You're not serious, Haz. You will lose.
Serious.
You will lose, Haz. You will lose.
I don't lose anything.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. You will end up in jail, or you will be killed.
That's probably true. I'm not gonna lie.
So you will forever remain a loser if you don't.
That doesn't mean I lose.
Cultists will carry on after us.
I'm up for some tough times, but that doesn't mean I lose. I win. I win when my cause outlive. All I need is for my cause to outlive me. And there's
everyone dies.
Pick up my banner, keep going forward, and keep the plan going. I win. As long as the plan keeps in motion, I win. That's all I need. I mean, me personally, if I get killed or something, I lost. How did I lose? I'm chill. I'm chilling then. Are you kidding? If I get killed or whatever, and
you're not going to be immortalized. You're going to be forgotten.
I don't even need to be remembered. All that needs to be remembered is the plan. All that needs to be remembered is the job that needs to be done. And I'm chilling. I'm not even around to be worrying about being dead. I'll be gone. resting.
Well, I pray to see that day of the outcome, if you're gonna win or not, and we'll see.
We'll win.
We'll see. Good luck.
We're going.
Yeah, we'll see.
We're gonna win. We ain't going nowhere.
All right. That's all
All
I
right,
was gonna
Abdul.
say.
All right, one more person, Curious Cat, and then we're wrapping up. Curious Cat, what are we curious about today? What are we curious about today, Curious Cat?
Yeah, so I was looking through the ACP program. I'm just wondering why you guys don't have anything about like ecological collapse. I mean,
We
it's
do.
not like a issue, right? You do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the public work service army. Public work.
And in the part about energy, it talks about, you know, nuclear and moving away from more harmful forms, but not in a Malthusian
Actually,
way.
no. When you think about it, sorry, I didn't mean to cut off.
No, you're good. I'm done.
Our whole program is ecological because when we're talking about planning cities and we're talking about planned economies and moving populations and like the public works and service army, all of that is to adapt to an era of ecological instability, which is inevitable, by the way, and which cannot be. So if you really mean to say, like, how are we going to stop global warming? We have no plan to do that because it can't be stopped. It's not going to be stopped. I'll tell you why it's not going to be stopped. As the Arctic melts, the North Pole, as it melts up, the resources and the gas are, there's going to be a extreme degree of economic activity going on there, which is going to drive development and growth. Africa will continue developing and growing. There's so many India, there's so many places in the world that are underdeveloped that need to be industrialized. So all we can foresee is an acceleration of the ecological changes. So the question is, how can we adapt to them? And I feel like our program is a very solid program of adapting to an era of ecological change.
Yeah, the only realistic solution, people call it eco-socialism, but like Haz is saying, it's basically just socialism.
I mean, because people confuse it for like degrowth. That's when they say green, they're like, oh, we have to scale back production and development.
Mm-hmm.
Well, ecology is just a branch of cybernetics, which deals with environmental systems and feedback loops and stuff.
Right, and then you can, if the only way to, you know, work in harmony with that is to plan the economy, and that's
exactly.
what capitalism creates, like a metabolic rift between humans and the earth.
You have to adapt. You have to create ways of control and adaptation, and mobilization, especially for disaster relief and to prevent disasters. You have to evacuate populations and whatever, and that's the future we have in ahead of us, and that's going to be our war, and communism. And people need to understand something. Let's say we achieve planetary scale communism, no human wars, no political conflicts. So what? Is everyone just like jacking off all day, smiling? No. No, it's still going to be just as violent as wars. But it's going to be human beings struggling with environmental catastrophes and disasters and viruses, and still there's going to be really big struggles, but they're not going to be struggles between human beings. They're going to be struggles. They're not even going to be struggles between humanity and nature. They're going to be struggles between human beings and the fight to adapt, the fight to mitigate, the fight to endure and persevere with their own existence, which includes nature. So it's going to still be a struggle. There's going to be a lot of people that die. Millions of people will perish in cosmic scale catastrophes, environmental disasters. I mean, there's still going to be tragedies, and all of the poetry of how life can be cruel and merciless will still be there in communism. It won't be like rainbows and sunshine. It's a really grim thing when people die of natural causes and diseases and cancer and stuff, and that's still going to be there, and scientists hard at work trying to cure these diseases. That's a strong, they're fighting a war in their laboratories, and they're working for humanity. They're fighting. It's a war, it's a war for mankind. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just communism allows, as you said, humanity to fight for humanity instead of fighting these, wars amongst each other, which are completely irrational. And like the great example is the U.S. military is one of the most. It's like more ecologically disastrous than most countries on Earth just on its own. And that's what we're doing when we should be preparing for ecological crises or helping. I don't know, just working together as humanity to fight the perils and evils that just exist naturally in the world. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point to bring up, though, because
There could
people
be
have
an
this
alien
utopian
invasion.
vision.
It could be aliens.
Right? We got to
Who
get ready to
knows?
fight the fucking aliens.
Who knows? Could be
Can't
anything.
fighting each other.
It could be like kangaroos suddenly, start killing everyone.
That's when we'll have communism. When the aliens come, then people will realize we have to get together here. When the kangaroos turn. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else, Curious Cat?
No, that's pretty much it for now. I mean, okay, one more question. Like, how do you think the ACP would act if, like something like 2020 happened again, when you have like these large, massive scale protests and confrontations with the police?
It depends on the context. But I don't think that'll happen again. But if it does, I mean, it depends on what's going on.
Not in the same form. It'll be something totally different. I mean, there'll be
Have to be
uprisings,
different.
but
It wouldn't be
and we'll
the
meet
same.
them, with education and trying, telling them get organized, get a part of something that's, a larger political project. Because that's a lot of these uprisings are just blind rage, and that's what theory and the party is for, is going to these people who are raging against the system and giving them an organized vehicle to do something about it, and giving them an understanding of the system and how it works, and what they're actually fighting against. And I think that's how we would react to any spontaneous uprising. And Rosa Luxemburg talked a lot about this. Some of it I don't, it's kind of gobbledygook, but some of it's good. She talks a lot about the importance of spontaneity, and how a lot of these uprisings just happen sort of spontaneously, and the communists need to be there, be ready to go to the people and help get them organized and educate them. So I think that's basically what we would do. But I agree that it'll be a different form when it happens again.
Yeah, that's all. Thanks. Good night.
Good night. I think we're gonna wrap up unless we have a really exciting. We're gonna wrap
Apes. Up. Oh yeah, okay.
Who?
I'm gonna go watch the podcast I did with Jake Shields.
Yeah,
Make sure
that's
to
a
check
good
that
idea.
out, everyone, and
Yeah.
give him, because we want him to have Haz on and other communists. So make sure you comment positively, and then potentially say, have Haz on next. I've already seen some people doing that. So
For sure. All right. See y'all later. Bye bye.
peace.